Chapter 80. Qin Wentian's silhouette was as fast as lightning as he dashed towards the forest. The sounds of rustling echoed unceasingly, and after a period of time, the pursuers stopped, giving up on their pursuit. After all, they still had things they needed to do. At this moment, Yanaro's speed was also extremely fast. He waved his hands to the people around him as he commanded, "Follow me closely." Everyone nodded their heads in silence. Everything was proceeding in silence. Time flowed by slowly. The group of people departed from the royal hunting ground and had already entered the depths of the dark forest. Demonic qi permeated the air, and many of them slowed their steps as they advanced. Mu Rou had already dismounted her horse. After killing a demonic beast, she retrieved the beast core in a clean and efficient manner. Many of them from the aristocratic clans would follow their elders to temper themselves when they were very young. Hence, they were extremely familiar with hunting. Demonic qi. At this moment, Mu Rou abruptly raised her head, gazing into the distance. After which, without any hesitation, she turned and fled. She had long since learned how to discern the degree of danger based on the density of the demonic qi in the dark forest. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to withstand this demonic qi, hence she decisively fled to the side. Just as she fled, a terrifying wave of scorching qi gushed over. The ancient trees on both sides of the forest seemed as though they were on the verge of burning up. Very quickly, a few ferocious demonic beasts appeared in her line of sight. These demonic beasts had the bodies of lions, but their heads were even more malevolent. Not only that, their bodies were as tough as rocks, yet there was also a faint glow of fire flickering on their bodies. Astral demonic beasts, Firerock lions. This type of demonic beast could absorb astral energy from the fire attribute constellation to grow. Not only that, their bodies were as tough as rocks, and their defense was extremely tyrannical. Not only that, the Firerock lions were extremely ferocious and bloodthirsty. They ferociously pursued Mu Rou. Mu Rou sprinted with great speed, but very quickly, she discovered that there was also a powerful demonic qi in the vicinity of her. Chu Ling, Mu Rou saw a silhouette in the distance, currently defending against the encirclement of a pack of demonic wolves. The silhouette seemed to be in a sorry state, as though he would collapse at any moment. Other than Chu Ling, another group of people were also battling against the demonic beasts. These people were none other than Qin Yao and some others from the Snowcloud country. Mu Rou madly sprinted in the direction of Chu Ling's location. Even before she arrived, her second astral soul, the Windstorm astral soul, had already been released. Her speed increased tremendously, and in the blink of an eye, she neared Chu Ling. Slashing out with her palms, an intense wind blade directly tore a demonic wolf apart. "You don't have to do anything," Chu Ling said coldly, but her hands did not stop moving. "There's a powerful demonic beast coming. Let's go." Mu Rou roared. However, it seemed that it was already too late. She, who was being held back by the demonic wolves, soon saw a few cinder-class lions charging over, surrounding her. "You deliberately harmed me." Chu Ling's countenance turned ashen as she stared at the cinder rock lions. Based on the aura emitted by these cinder rock lions, they were at least at the 5th level of the arterial circulation realm, equivalent to the 3rd level of the arterial circulation realm. As for these astral beasts, their strength should be at the 5th or 6th level of the arterial circulation realm. The cinder rock lions spat out a ball of flames towards them. Mu Rou's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold, as the windstorm enveloped her body. Her movement technique was extremely fast, and she dodged the flames as she inched closer to the cinder rock lions. The defense of these cinder rock lions was extremely strong, and based on her strength, if she didn't land a direct hit on the cinder rock lions, she wouldn't be able to do anything to them. While the two of them were fighting miserably, Yanaro slowly walked out, with a smile that was not a smile on his face as he stared at the battlefield. "Yanaro, why aren't you helping?" Chu Ling called out to Yanaro, only to see Yanaro laughing as he replied, "Should I help you, or should I help Mu Rou?" Muro hates you very much, so don't be so thick-skinned and stick yourself to others. Chu Ling coldly replied, but as the sound of her voice faded, she let out a cry of fear, as she was almost attacked. Muro's countenance stiffened. In the past, her relationship with Chu Ling was extremely good. Who would have thought that because of Qin Wentian, Chu Ling would actually hate her so much? Hee hee. Yanaro didn't seem to be in a hurry to act, as he laughed. What conditions do you guys promise me? I'll give you 50 pieces of Yuan meteor stones from the second heavenly layer. Chu Ling silently cursed Yanaro in her heart. This bastard actually dared to extort her at such a time. Muro didn't say anything, and continued fighting. At this moment, a gust of wind blew past at an extremely fast speed. The silhouette of a person dashed to Muro's side, and with a dragon's roar, he punched out with his fist, directly hitting a cinder rock lion. Boom! The terrifying force of the punch actually sent the cinder rock lion flying back. One could see how powerful the dragon's subduing fist was. Is that him? Muro's countenance brightened when she saw who it was. This was a man wearing a Kirin mask. Although he had changed his clothes, from the way he moved and the way he executed the dragon's subduing fist, it should be none other than Qin Wentian. Chu Ling also noticed the appearance of Qin Wentian. She didn't expect that the Kirin-masked man from the City of Illusions would appear here. She wondered which academy he was from. Leave it to me. Qin Wentian's voice was low as he executed the 9 heavenly Garuda movement technique. Momentarily, Muro only saw a series of afterimages appearing behind him. The demonic wolves had no way to withstand a single strike from Qin Wentian. Even the cinder rock lion would suffer heavy injuries if it was struck by Qin Wentian. The dragon's subduing fist, an innate technique at the pinnacle of humanity, could unleash a terrifying might in the hands of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was using divine energy from the 5th heavenly layer. How could his attacks not be tyrannical? Yanaro's countenance turned extremely unsightly when he saw this scene. It was him, the member of the Knights Association in the City of Illusions. In the blink of an eye, in front of Qin Wentian, there was only one remaining cinder rock lion, the human Wuxiu, whose strength was at the 6th level of the arterial circulation realm. Roar! The cinder rock lion let out an earth-shattering roar of rage as it madly dashed towards Qin Wentian. In that instant, Qin Wentian didn't even bother to dodge. He directly dashed towards the cinder rock lion, not using any movement techniques. Die! A low voice sounded out from Qin Wentian's mouth, as he simultaneously blasted out a tyrannical palm strike. This palm strike was erratic, and contained both hardness and gentleness, containing a terrifying might. With a cracking sound, the skull of the cinder rock lion was directly shattered into pieces. After which, it slumped to the ground, not a single sound could be heard. How powerful! Chu Ling's heart trembled. Qin Wentian's aura was only at the 5th level of the arterial circulation realm, yet he actually possessed such terrifying combat prowess. Most probably, he could even kill stellar martial cultivators at the 6th level of the arterial circulation realm. As for Yanaro, his countenance flickered with a sharp light. The palm strike earlier seemed similar to the Thousand Hands imprint, but at the same time, it wasn't. Muro, on the other hand, was much calmer. She had sparred with Qin Wentian for many days, and knew that he was extraordinary. Her silhouette flickered as she helped Chu Ling sweep away the demonic wolves in the surroundings, and very quickly, the battlefield was cleared. On the other side, although the battle between Qin Yao and the rest had yet to end, Qin Yao wouldn't be in any danger. Boom! At this moment, a tyrannical sword intent abruptly gushed forth from Yanaro's body. He took a step in the direction of Qin Wentian, as a desolate killing intent gushed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian abruptly turned around, as a cold glint of light flickered in his eyes as he stared at Yanaro. Bzzz. Yanaro dashed towards Qin Wentian, as the sword chi exuding from his body grew increasingly tyrannical. It was as though a terrifying storm of swords was brewing around him. Boom! Qin Wentian's footsteps shook the ground, as he madly sprinted towards Yanaro. The boundless divine energy in his body frenziedly circulated towards his 5 arterial pathways, as the sound of his divine energy rumbling could be heard. Chi, chi. Yanaro stabbed out with his finger, as a sword materialized in the middle of his finger, piercing towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's body swayed back and forth like a willow catkin, and at the instant the sword neared him, he merely brushed past the sword chi. Humph, Yanaro coldly laughed. With a flick of his palms, he punched out with his 5 fingers, as though the sword chi wanted to lacerate everything in its path. And at the same instant, Qin Wentian's arterial pathways emitted a terrifying rumbling sound. His body abruptly shifted to the side, as his palms slammed towards Yanaro with the force of a hurricane, akin to a raging tempest. The attacks of the two collided together, as the palm imprints were unceasingly torn apart. Qin Wentian was forced backwards, and so was Yanaro. He felt his blood and qi churning violently within his body, and when he looked at Qin Wentian again, an intense killing intent could be seen in his eyes. Qin Wentian lowered his head and glanced at the front of his robes. Numerous holes had been lacerated by the sword qi, and if it weren't for the fact that he had retreated so quickly, the sword qi would have already injured him. Given Yanaro's cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, it wouldn't be easy to defeat him. At this moment, there were many silhouettes around. Qin Wentian surveyed his surroundings, as his silhouette flickered as he retreated to the side. He cast a glance in the direction of Qin Yao, and at this moment, Qin Yao and the rest had already settled their problems, and were continuing on their way. No. At this moment, a cry of terror drifted over, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen. It was the voice of Qin Yao. Qin Wentian sprinted in that direction, and very quickly, his gaze froze as his entire body trembled. In Qin Wentian's field of vision, there was a black-colored castle. This castle was extremely large, yet it exuded a sense of eeriness, as though it couldn't see the light of day. The pitch-black gates of the castle were made from black iron, and gave off an extremely heavy feeling. However, just outside of this castle, there was a drill ground surrounded by demonic beasts. In the middle of the drill ground, a group of terrifying demonic beasts were currently attacking a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's entire body was covered in blood, and his hair was in a mess. Only his eyes were still filled with vigor. "Father!" Qin Yao screamed. "Father!" Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath, trying his best to maintain his calm. Yanaro and the rest had followed Qin Yao all the way here. Could it be that they were waiting for this moment, to allow Qin Yao to arrive here and witness such a cruel scene? Was this battle prepared for Qin Yao? What was Chu Tianjiao's purpose? Yanaro, Chu Ling, Mu Rou, and many others also arrived here, as they stared at the castle in front of them. The legendary Black Castle. Mu Rou murmured in a low voice. The Black Castle was a place where death row criminals were imprisoned. It was rumored that it was located in the depths of the dark forest, and once you entered the Black Castle, it would be impossible for you to escape even if you grew wings. That middle-aged man was Qin Yao's father. In that case, he should also be Qin Wentian's father. Thinking of this, Mu Rou walked to the side of Qin Wentian, as she whispered, "The Black Castle is an extremely important place, and the security inside is incomparably tight. Only those who enter can enter, but not those who leave. However, Qin Chuan is currently outside the Black Castle. This might be a trap, don't fall for it." Qin Wentian's heart trembled. So it turned out that Mu Rou already knew of his identity. Naturally, this was a trap. But why would Chu Tianjiao want to lay such a trap? He didn't understand. In his heart, a raging fire burned. Chapter 81. Upon seeing Qin Yao, Qin Chuan's countenance changed. He couldn't help but berate her, "Qin Yao, don't bother about me." Qin Yao's countenance stiffened as her countenance paled. Tears welled up in her eyes as she replied, "Father, how can I not care about you?" After which, she turned and stared at Yanaro, where's Chu Tianjiao? Why are you doing this? Chu Tianjiao didn't appear. Yanaro took a step forward as he emotionlessly stated, Qin Yao, this man is a serious criminal of our Chu country. This matter has nothing to do with you, and you are not allowed to interfere. Good, good, how vicious. Qin Yao's countenance was ice-cold. I want to save him. One of them exclaimed, this place is Chu, and that man is a serious criminal of our Chu country. Not only that, the experts from our Snowcloud country aren't here. Only now did Qin Yao realize that Chu Tianjiao had used the hunting grounds as an excuse to allow them to temper themselves, while leaving the experts from Snowcloud country behind. Not only that, along the way, there seemed to be someone intentionally or unintentionally guiding her here. It seemed like this was all part of Chu Tianjiao's plan. This is my matter, it has nothing to do with you. Qin Yao spoke as she turned and walked towards Qin Chuan. Qin Yao, think carefully. Those who dare to barge into the Black Stronghold shall be killed without mercy. Yanaro roared. Qin Chuan also roared in rage, Qin Yao, go. However, how could Qin Yao listen to him? She dashed towards the drill grounds where Qin Chuan was located. Yanaro coldly laughed, Qin Yao, you are courting death. As the sound of his voice faded, several silhouettes appeared in the surroundings, surrounding the drill grounds. Apart from them, Yizhan, Lu Yu and the others who attended the banquet had also arrived. Their hearts were filled with astonishment. So it turned out that the third prince had already made arrangements. The Black Stronghold was a restricted area, and if it wasn't for someone intentionally allowing them to enter, they wouldn't even be able to get close to it. Qin Yao dashed into the drill grounds. Although Qin Chuan was heavily injured after being imprisoned in the Black Stronghold, he could still unleash the combat prowess of a cultivator at the 5th or 6th level of arterial circulation. He was even stronger than Qin Yao. Not only that, Yanaro and the rest were like tigers watching their prey, as though they were watching a show. They didn't seem to be in a hurry to deal with Qin Chuan and Qin Yao. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. Qin Wentian stepped forward, but he was held back by Mu Rou. Mu Rou spoke in a low voice, Qin Yao has already fallen into the trap, you can't walk right into it. If Qin Wentian interfered at this time, Yanaro and the rest would have a reason to deal with Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's pitch-black eyes stared at the two silhouettes on the drill ground. He looked into Mu Rou's eyes and said in a low voice, how can you endure after seeing your father like this? How can you be a human? As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Wentian's body sprinted madly. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he stepped into the drill grounds, leaving Mu Rou staring at his silhouette in a daze. The men of the Qin clan all had bones of steel. Seeing Qin Wentian's participation, the crowd was stunned. Even Qin Chuan and Qin Yao were puzzled. But very quickly, a cold smile flickered in Yanaro's eyes. This Kirin young man was courting death. Friend, this matter has nothing to do with you. Leave. Qin Chuan killed a demonic beast, as he spoke to Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian didn't reply. His movements were swift and nimble, and the might of his palms pulsed out as he killed a powerful demonic beast. At this moment, the demonic beasts on the drill ground were gradually being cleared out. However, in the surroundings, there were still many soldiers with bows in their hands, aiming their arrows at them. Now, you still want to leave? Yanaro coldly laughed. Following which, the rest of the soldiers dashed forward, pouncing towards Qin Wentian and his two companions. He had exchanged blows with the Kirin young man twice, and to him, this was simply a humiliation. The sword qi radiating from Yanaro was extremely terrifying, as he howled in rage. His body madly dashed forward, as he pointed his finger in the air, as though he wanted to unleash the power of his innate technique to the extreme. Qin Wentian stepped out, as his arterial pathways rumbled. His palms congregated with boundless might as he blasted out with the revolving sea imprint, no longer concealing it. Die! Yanaro howled in rage as his astral soul erupted. This finger strike was one of his strongest attacks, and its might was incomparably terrifying. However, the terrifying palm imprint blasted out by Qin Wentian seemed to be able to engulf everything in its path, destroying everything in its path. The terrifying vibrational force caused the robes of the two of them to be torn apart. Sounds of slicing rang out, as the Kirin mask on Qin Wentian's face was torn apart by the sword Qi, revealing his true features. His devilishly handsome countenance was filled with a resolute determination, while the eyes of the youth were filled with a cold killing intent. Qin Wentian. Yanaro's voice was filled with an intense killing intent. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the opponent he was unable to defeat would actually be Qin Wentian, whom he had humiliated a few months ago. Those from the aristocratic clans were all stunned as they stared at Qin Wentian. Not long ago, the target of ridicule at the banquet, the person who was rumored to be extremely arrogant in the Emperor's Star Academy, had actually become so powerful. Chu Ling's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. Initially, she was filled with disdain towards Qin Wentian, but now, she discovered that Qin Wentian's combat prowess far exceeded hers. This made her feel extremely uncomfortable. He's already so powerful. Lu Yan murmured in a low voice, as a hint of disappointment could be seen in her heart. Wentian. Qin Chuan, upon seeing that the person who had arrived was actually Qin Wentian, felt both joy and worry in his heart. He was happy because Qin Wentian had only cultivated for less than a year, yet he already possessed such tyrannical combat prowess. Wentian, who sent you here? Qin Yao's countenance paled. She didn't expect that Qin Wentian would appear here. Qin Wentian turned his head back and smiled at the two of them. The coldness in his eyes disappeared, replaced by a gentle smile. Father, sister. Nonsense, leave immediately. Qin Chuan roared in rage, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen. Stay here, kill them all. As the sound of Yanaro's voice faded, a group of experts lunged towards them. Qin Wentian and Yanaro once again clashed against each other. Sword Qi crisscrossed the area, palm imprints pulsed out in a frenzy as they clashed against each other. Lu Yu, go and kill him. That will be considered as a meritorious deed, paving the way for your future. Yizhan spoke to Lu Yu. Lu Yu's countenance stiffened as he glanced at Yizhan. After which, he nodded his head and brandished a divine weapon in his hands as he advanced forward. Lu Yan's heart trembled as she witnessed this scene. She appeared exceptionally weak and delicate as she cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, but she didn't say anything. Qin Chuan also had his own opponents. He was very clear that since they were outside of the Black Stronghold, it would be very easy for their opponents to take their lives. Yet, they still chose not to act because of that laughable deduction. Wentian, you are actually already so strong. At this moment, Qin Chuan's entire body was covered in dirt. But as he stared at the back view of the youth, his eyes were filled with tears. He, Qin Chuan, had a son and a daughter. What more could he ask for? He could only lament in his heart at the ruthlessness of the emperor. While Yanaro and Qin Wentian were fighting, there were already quite a few people surrounding them, ready to act at any moment. At this moment, the two of them clashed once again. The sharp sword and the palm imprints clashed against each other, both of them were extremely strained. A chance. Lu Yu and the rest froze when they saw this scene. Since Qin Wentian had delivered himself to their doorstep, they had to kill him. Seeing the attacks coming towards him from his left and right, Qin Wentian roared in rage, "Scram!" A terrifying amount of divine energy was spat out from his mouth as a terrifying palm imprint blasted that person away. At the same time, Qin Wentian's gaze sharpened as he stared at Lu Yu. Lu Yu's sword was already flying towards him, and he could only retract his hand. Executing the seizing hand, Yanaro's sword Qi broke through his defense, leaving behind a bloody wound on his body. At the same time, Yanaro's body was forced back by the impact of Qin Wentian's palm imprint attack. Qin Wentian didn't bother to look at the bloody wound on his body. Instead, he shifted his gaze onto Lu Yu, his hands still holding onto Lu Yu's sword. Lu Yu glanced at his surroundings, only to discover that he was alone. His countenance couldn't help but stiffen as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian, I was forced to do this for the sake of my younger sister's future. In any case, you are going to die today. If you really have feelings for Lu Yan, why don't you grant me your wish? Qin Wentian indifferently glanced at Lu Yu, and with a jerk of his hand, the sword was snatched away by him. Clutching onto the tip of the sword, he stared at Lu Yu. On account of our previous friendship, I won't kill you. Scram. Lu Yu retreated slightly, yet he didn't give up. He still wanted to deal with Qin Wentian. You idiot. From afar, two graceful silhouettes sprinted over. These two silhouettes were none other than Mo Qingsheng and Nolan. Qin Wentian, Qingsheng has already told you that you don't owe Lu Yan anything. Why are you so stupid? That day in the forest outside of Sky Harmony City, it was Qingsheng who fed you medicinal pills and helped you to boil the medicine. Only when we saw Lu Yan and the others did we leave. Lu Yan was merely passing by and glanced at you. You idiot. Nolan was infuriated. This fellow didn't cherish himself at all. Lu Yu wanted to kill him, yet he still cared about Lu Yan's friendship. What a fool, what a fool. Qin Wentian's heart trembled, as he turned his gaze onto Mo Qingsheng's beautiful countenance. Mo Qingsheng stood there, looking as beautiful as ever. She lightly nodded her head. It was that little rascal beside you that led me to you. This is also the reason why it recognized me. Qin Wentian thought back to the day when he first arrived at the royal capital. The first time he truly saw Mo Qingsheng, little rascal had indeed leapt into her sedan. His gaze involuntarily shifted to Lu Yan as he spoke, so, it wasn't you who saved me outside of Sky Harmony City. Lu Yan had a blank expression on her face. Her elder brother Lu Yu had always told her that Qin Wentian liked her, and that was why he treated her so well. She didn't know that Qin Wentian did it because he wanted to repay her kindness, and it was true that she didn't save Qin Wentian. She was merely passing by. Now that she heard the words of Mo Qingsheng and Qin Wentian, she seemed to understand something. So, everything was just a misunderstanding. Seeing the expression on Lu Yan's face, Qin Wentian understood everything. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face, one that was somewhat bewitching. So it turns out that we've only met once. Qin Wentian spoke. After speaking, he turned his gaze onto Lu Yu, as a look of mockery flashed in his eyes. I've even saved your lives in the dark forest before. I have no right to interfere in your lives, nor do I have the right to control which circles you want to enter. We are merely strangers, but I really don't understand why you would be so shameless, wanting me to be sent to you to be killed, in exchange for your future. How ridiculous is this? As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian stepped out, as his killing intent gushed forth frenziedly, causing Lu Yu's countenance to turn incomparably unsightly, as terror flickered in his eyes. Chapter 82. Lu Yu retreated, his countenance pale as he spoke. Qin Wentian, on account of Lu Yan, let's forget about this. Qin Wentian inclined his head and gazed in the direction of Lu Yan, as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Although it was a misunderstanding, it should have been a beautiful one, and we could still be friends. Sadly, you made use of this misunderstanding to kill me. As for Lu Yan, I don't owe her anything. As he spoke, the killing intent radiating from Qin Wentian intensified. Not only did he not owe Lu Yan anything, on the contrary, Lu Yan owed him her life. Lu Yan stared in the direction of Qin Wentian, as though she wanted to cry. She understood that Qin Wentian was right, she was the one who owed Qin Wentian. What was laughable was that when her brother Lu Yu said that Qin Wentian liked her, she actually believed him and allowed her brother to make use of Qin Wentian's feelings to deal with Qin Wentian. Die! Qin Wentian blasted out a palm imprint towards Lu Yu. Lu Yu raised his hands to defend, but was instantly engulfed by the terrifying palm imprint, killed in a single strike. No! Lu Yan squatted on the ground and cried. She closed her eyes, as though she didn't dare to look at this scene. When Qin Wentian looked at Lu Yan, there wasn't much sympathy in his eyes. Earlier, when Lu Yu tried to kill him, Lu Yan didn't even say a word. Maybe her character wasn't bad, but that attitude of hers was extremely disappointing. After all, he had saved her life before. Very good. At this moment, a voice drifted over from afar. The gazes of the crowd turned over, only to see the third Prince Chu Tianjiao and Luo Qianqiu galloping over. They sat on their horses, looking down at Qin Wentian with indifference and calmness. It was as though nothing in front of them could affect them. Qin Wentian, rescuing a prisoner on death row is a crime punishable by death. Even if you are a student of the Emperor's Star Academy, it's the same. Chu Tianjiao calmly stated, convicting Qin Wentian with a single sentence. As soon as he finished speaking, the soldiers around the drill ground immediately aimed their arrows at them. At this moment, it seemed that they could not escape even if they had wings. Yao Wentian, silly children. Qin Chuan felt guilt in his heart. His children had a bright future ahead of them. Were they going to be buried here? Boom, boom. The earth abruptly trembled as a terrifying demonic qi gushed over, causing the expressions of the crowd to freeze. Qin Chuan was also stunned, and his eyes flickered. Chu Tianjiao's countenance was as calm as ever. However, a faint smile could be seen on his face as he murmured in his heart, "You finally couldn't endure it any longer? I've been waiting for a long time." The gates of the Black Stronghold opened as a group of troops clad in armor exited. Chu Tianjiao commanded, "Capture the three of them and bring them back to the Black Stronghold. I want them alive." Yes. The group of experts rushed out and pounced towards Qin Wentian and the others. A horde of demonic beasts galloped over, appearing in their vision. Qin Chuan's heart was ignited with a glimmer of hope as he shouted to Qin Wentian and Qin Yao, "All of you flee, don't bother about me. They won't dare to kill me." After speaking, he dashed towards the group of experts rushing over. Lifting his palms, he placed them on the crown of his head. "If you guys take another step forward, I'll definitely die on the spot." Qin Chuan roared, his voice booming out, causing the group of experts to slow down as they turned their gazes towards Chu Tianjiao. Qin Chuan turned his body and stared at Chu Tianjiao as he icily stated, "A man of character doesn't need to be pitied even if he dies. I, Qin Chuan, am an iron-blooded man. I'll do what I say." Qin Chuan was gambling. These few days, Chu Tianjiao had been making use of him, as though he wanted to draw out something. It was as though Chu Tianjiao was gambling with his father. Qin Chuan was betting that Chu Tianjiao wouldn't dare to let him die. And indeed, Chu Tianjiao waved his hands, causing the experts to halt their advance. At the same time, the horde of demonic beasts rushed over, as though they were about to go berserk. The archers instantly aimed their arrows at the demonic beasts, as they began to slaughter them. Qin Chuan spoke to Qin Wentian and Qin Yao, "You guys leave, if there's even the slightest chance, you have to escape." "Father." Tears flowed down Qin Yao's cheeks. How could she bear to part with her father? Qin Wentian also looked at Qin Chuan, "Father, if you want to leave, let's leave together. If you don't leave now, I'll die right here in front of you." Qin Chuan raised his palms, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to turn extremely unsightly, as his body heaved up and down violently. "Father!" Qin Yao shouted loudly, only to see Qin Wentian pulling her hand as they madly dashed towards the side of the road. Mo Qingcheng inclined her head and stared at the skies, feeling somewhat anxious in her heart. Why weren't they here yet? "Qianqiu, do me a favor." Chu Tianjiao spoke in a low voice to Luo Qianqiu. Luo Qianqiu nodded his head, understanding Chu Tianjiao's intentions. After which, he mounted his warhorse and galloped in the direction of Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. Other than Luo Qianqiu, there was also a group of silhouettes chasing after Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. This group of people were all extremely young, yet the aura they exuded was exceptionally cold. Mo Qingcheng stepped out, only to hear Chu Tianjiao saying, "Qingcheng, I don't wish to obstruct you." Upon hearing his words, Mo Qingcheng halted her steps as she sighed in her heart. She was very clear that if Chu Tianjiao interfered, it would be impossible for her to help Qin Wentian even if she wanted to. "Chu Tianjiao, why must you do things so ruthlessly?" Mo Qingcheng stared at Chu Tianjiao as she spoke. "I know that the ancestors of the Mo clan had a deep connection with Qin Wu, but things have already happened so long ago. The Qin clan is no longer the Qin clan of the past, and the Mo clan has already chosen to stay out of this matter. Qingcheng, why must you interfere in this matter?" Chu Tianjiao replied. "Why must the Chu clan be so ruthless?" Mo Qingcheng sighed as she gazed into the horizons. She knew of Luo Qianqiu's identity. In the Chu country, Luo Qianqiu was a taboo existence. Even the royal clan wouldn't dare to antagonize him, and even the Emperor's Star Academy could only tolerate him. Not only that, Luo Qianqiu's combat prowess was exceedingly high. Mo Qingcheng could only wish Qin Wentian good luck. Even if she wanted to interfere, she didn't have the strength to do so. Qin Wentian pulled Qin Yao along as he madly sprinted through the dark forest, executing the Garuda movement technique to the extreme. However, he discovered that the pursuers were all extremely powerful, and their speed wasn't any slower than him. "Sister, you leave first." Qin Wentian spoke to Qin Yao. "No way." Qin Yao decisively rejected. "If you don't leave, neither of us will be able to escape. But if you leave, I still have a chance." Qin Wentian spoke to Qin Yao, "Your speed is too slow, you will only drag me down." Qin Yao felt a sense of disappointment when she heard Qin Wentian's words. She knew that Qin Wentian was intentionally angering her, but what Qin Wentian said was the truth. "Wentian, father has already been captured. You must not fall into their hands again." Qin Yao's beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she stared at Qin Wentian. "Don't worry, sister, I still have to take care of you." A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Qin Yao heavily nodded her head, "I will wait for you." As the sound of her voice faded, Qin Wentian released her hand as he halted his steps. "Leave quickly." Qin Wentian berated. Qin Yao wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes as she endured the pain in her heart and continued running. Seeing that Qin Yao had left, a gentle smile blossomed on Qin Wentian's face. However, when he glanced at the pursuing silhouettes, his eyes flickered with a cold light. In his hands, the gold Punisher sword was clenched tightly. The pursuing silhouettes, upon seeing that Qin Wentian was alone, wanted to split up and pursue him. However, Qin Wentian only saw the gold Punisher sword in his hand as he roared in rage, "Whoever dares to take another step forward, this third-ranked divine weapon will explode." As the sound of his voice faded, astral energy gushed into the gold Punisher sword as a terrifying sword chi gushed forth, causing the pursuing silhouettes to abruptly halt their steps. "This is a third-ranked divine weapon bestowed upon me by an elder of the Emperor's Star Academy. If you wish to die, come at me." Qin Wentian's lips curled up in a cold smile. The pupils of the pursuing silhouettes narrowed when they felt the sword chi. Based on the talent Qin Wentian had displayed in the Emperor's Star Academy, there was a high possibility that his words were true. "Kill him from afar." Luo Qianqiu galloped over, as he coldly commanded the pursuing silhouettes. Momentarily, a tyrannical aura gushed forth from the bodies of the pursuing silhouettes, blasting towards Qin Wentian. The divine energy in Qin Wentian's body circulated frenziedly as he blasted out with the revolving sea imprint. The tyrannical energy collided with the silhouettes, causing Qin Wentian's body to be forced backwards by the force of the collision. His blood and qi churned violently, yet he still couldn't bear to release the sword in his hand. He wanted to buy time for Qin Yao. Kill! The group of experts continued advancing, unleashing powerful attacks in succession. Qin Wentian retreated step by step as he coughed out blood. His countenance paled, but the resolution in his eyes was as incomparably resolute as before. If I can't protect my father today, and if I allow Sister Yao to fall into danger as well, I would have wasted my reputation as a man. Qin Wentian's countenance was ice-cold. The revolving sea imprint in his palms blasted out in a frenzy, filling the skies with destructive palm imprints. However, this could only delay him for a short period of time. Not long after, Qin Wentian had already coughed out an unknown amount of blood. Within his body, the astral energy in his body was on the verge of drying up. Those who were attacking unceasingly from afar were all silently admiring Qin Wentian's tenacity. Very swiftly, they began to move in different directions. Qin Wentian was going all out. They needed a group of people to circle around him and pursue Qin Yao. But at this moment, Qin Wentian roared in rage as he lunged forward. The gold element sword in his hands slashed out as he frenziedly channeled astral energy into it. How fast was Qin Wentian's speed? In an instant, he closed the distance between him and Qin Wentian. The gold element sword also slashed out, and in an instant, a terrifying sword light erupted forth, transforming into a rain of swords that filled the skies. And at the same instant, because Qin Wentian had disregarded everything and rushed forward, he also suffered a terrifying impact. His body was flung through the air, and when he landed on the ground, he coughed out another mouthful of blood. However, his eyes were still fixated on the scene in front of him, as the rain of swords continued to frenziedly reap lives. Just like what Ren Qianqing had said, the gold element sword was a single-use divine weapon. Its might was extremely strong, and its attack range was also extremely vast. In an instant, it had wiped out countless lives. Chapter 83. Qin Wentian sat on the ground, ignoring the turbulence in his body. He retrieved his silver needles and pierced them into various acupoints. In an instant, his blood boiled once more as he executed the 12-linked life needle technique, wanting to break the shackles of his bloodline. At the same time, he donned a pair of divine weapon gloves that were inscribed with the origin returning divine imprint. Boom! A leg swept over, leaving behind afterimages of the leg, wanting to destroy Qin Wentian who was sitting on the ground. Since this person was able to survive the attack of the gold element sword, it was evident that he had some outstanding points. The strength of his leg was extremely terrifying, and his speed was also extremely fast. Hence, he was the first to rush over. Boom! Qin Wentian stretched out his palms, directly grabbing onto the leg that could shatter boulders. That person lost his balance as his countenance drastically changed. He stared at Qin Wentian only to see a blood-red light flickering in his eyes, akin to that of a primordial beast. An astral hammer appeared in Qin Wentian's left hand as he ferociously smashed it towards his opponent. Instantly, a scream of agony rang out. At the same time, Qin Wentian stood up as the aura exuding from him grew increasingly violent. With a step, he dashed towards the two experts who wanted to pursue Qin Yao. His perfect grade Garuda movement technique, in addition to his explosive strength, caused his speed to be incomparably fast. In an instant, he had already caught up to them. The Vitra imprint slashed out, directly killing the two of them. Luo Qianqiu sat on his warhorse, personally witnessing everything that happened. His countenance fluctuated slightly. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian would actually use a secret art to activate his bloodline. In addition to the divine weapon gloves, he was able to erupt forth with even greater combat prowess. However, in his eyes, Qin Wentian was merely putting up a last-ditch struggle. Michem. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu inclined his head and stared into the distance. He could sense a terrifying demonic qi rushing over in his direction, causing the sky to be shrouded by a layer of haze. Seems like the commotion today wasn't small at all. To think that a small wave of demonic beasts would be triggered. Luo Qianqiu couldn't help but exclaim in his heart when he saw the overwhelming amount of demonic qi. Don't chase after Qin Yao. Those people also saw the terrifying demonic qi coming from afar. They nodded and looked at Qin Wentian. Now, it was time to kill him first. Luo Qianqiu dismounted his warhorse and took a step forward. In an instant, Qin Wentian felt an intense sense of danger. Although Luo Qianqiu's steps appeared slow, it felt as though he could descend at any moment. His entire body was bathed in the might of lightning, akin to a terrifying god of thunder. Boom! The ground trembled as Luo Qianqiu appeared in front of Qin Wentian. Punching out with his fist, boundless lightning might gushed forth as the resplendent rays of light were so blinding that no one could open their eyes. Qin Wentian took a step forwards, as his arterial circulation imprints erupted forth with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas, causing the heavens and earth to howl. Luo Qianqiu's steps were as steady as empty tai as he advanced forward, his fist light vibrated thrice, as though he had punched out thrice consecutively. The terrifying shockwaves were transmitted to Qin Wentian's body, causing him to feel as though his body was about to be torn apart. How powerful! The spectators, who had wanted to rush forward, couldn't help but exclaim in admiration upon seeing Luo Qianqiu's strength. This was Luo Qianqiu, who had the bearing of his father. Back then, Luo Qianqiu's father had turned the entire Chu country upside down. Qin Wentian could also feel the tyrannical might of Luo Qianqiu's astral souls and innate techniques. With a howl of rage, the divine energy stored within his divine glove erupted forth. In that instant, he blasted out with his palm, akin to a raging tsunami, his palm imprint engulfing the heavens and earth. Luo Qianqiu's countenance stiffened as he released his lightning seigneur astral soul. Qin Wentian felt his entire body going numb. He also circulated his divine energy to his eyes, yet his body was still flung backwards from the impact. At the same time, Luo Qianqiu's footsteps slashed across the ground as he was forced backwards. He couldn't help but stare in bewilderment at the divine glove on Qin Wentian's hands. Lifting his head, Luo Qianqiu could feel that the demonic qi was getting stronger and stronger. He could even see demonic beasts madly sprinting towards him. Involuntarily, he shouted, "Retreat!" As the sound of his voice faded, those who had survived the pursuit of Qin Wentian all retreated. However, Luo Qianqiu once again advanced towards Qin Wentian. Before he retreated, he had to kill this brat first. Qin Wentian swallowed the blood he was about to spit out when he saw Luo Qianqiu approaching. The divine energy in his body started to churn violently. Luo Qianqiu's strength was too strong, and the disparity between their cultivation bases was too great. Luo Qianqiu was at the peak of the 7th level of arterial circulation. He could deal with Yanaro, who was at the 7th level of arterial circulation, but the disparity between him and Luo Qianqiu was too great. Go! Luo Qianqiu landed in front of Qin Wentian as he blasted out with his palms. Qin Wentian only felt a lightning-type Zun rushing towards him, he had no way to defend against it. Gathering all his strength, Qin Wentian blasted out with a palm strike. However, he could feel his palm strike being destroyed unceasingly. Finally, a terrifying mandate of lightning penetrated into his body, causing him to be flung through the air once again, before slamming heavily onto the ground. His entire body no longer had the slightest bit of strength left. Luo Qianqiu saw a group of demonic beasts madly sprinting towards him. He turned and fled at an extremely fast speed, causing rumbling sounds to echo unceasingly. This was the sound of the demonic beasts trampling on the ground. A demonic beast landed beside Qin Wentian, lowering its head and glancing at Qin Wentian. After which, it took a detour around Qin Wentian's body and continued its mad dash forward. Very quickly, more and more demonic beasts dashed towards Qin Wentian. However, none of these demonic beasts dared to trample on Qin Wentian's body. Instead, they took a detour around Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian could sense all of this. He felt as though he was about to die. His consciousness was already drifting about, as though it was difficult for him to regain his consciousness. If my consciousness dissipates, I will die. I have to live on. In Qin Wentian's heart, an incomparably strong conviction surfaced. He couldn't die. How could he die before he could exact his revenge? His father, Qin Chuan, was trapped in the black stronghold. How could he die? After Sister Yao left, he might fall into a dangerous situation at any time. How could he die? If he died, how could he face the gratitude of Teacher Mustang? If he died, how could he face the care and concern of senior sister Luo Huan? If he died, Fatty would most likely be bullied by those from the Knights Association. Qin Wentian, he couldn't die. His consciousness couldn't dissipate. At this moment, an extremely powerful demonic beast appeared beside Qin Wentian. It was the Black Wind Condor. Its body was covered with phoenix feathers, and its eyes were as sharp as swords. The Black Wind Condor lowered its head and stared at Qin Wentian. Its sharp eyes flickered with uncertainty, as though it was contemplating something. Qin Wentian could sense the presence of the Black Wind Condor. It was as though the Black Wind Condor had grown eyes, and could see everything in the surroundings. As long as the Black Wind Condor willed it, he would die a miserable death on the spot. I can't die. The conviction in Qin Wentian's heart grew stronger and stronger. Abruptly, it was as though a dream force was born. Abruptly, he and the Black Wind Condor appeared in a unique space. The Black Wind Condor froze, as a look of bewilderment flashed in its eyes. Dreamscape. The Black Wind Condor stared at Qin Wentian. It was as though Qin Wentian could hear its words. He didn't want to die in the dark forest. His intense conviction had actually allowed him to step into the second level of the Dreamcast art, the Dreamscape. This was Qin Wentian's dream. He had created a dreamscape, and the Black Wind Condor had been dragged into it as well. With the Black Wind Condor's strength, it could forcibly tear apart the dreamscape and retreat. However, it didn't. What kind of bloodline do you have in your body? The Black Wind Condor was able to communicate with Qin Wentian because this was Qin Wentian's dream. I don't know. Qin Wentian shook his head. Then who are you in the Chu country? Why do you have the Dreamcast art? The Black Wind Condor asked again. The Dreamcast art was extremely rare in the Chu country. Only now did Qin Wentian understand that the intelligence of the demonic beasts in the dark forest was much higher than what he had imagined. I'm Qin Wentian from the Sky Harmony city of the Chu country. As for the Dreamcast art, it's a cultivation technique passed down to me by an elder of mine. Qin Wentian cautiously replied. The Black Wind Condor muttered to itself for a moment before continuing, you've suffered heavy injuries, yet you didn't die. Not only that, you also have such a powerful bloodline. Let me gift you a stroke of good fortune. Whether you live or die, it's up to you. After speaking, the Black Wind Condor tore apart the dreamscape. After which, Qin Wentian felt himself soaring up into the air, as the Black Wind Condor grabbed onto him with its talons, and flew towards the depths of the dark forest. After the departure of the Black Wind Condor, the demonic beast tide also began to recede. It was as though the Black Wind Condor was the leader of the demonic beast tide. Very quickly, the dark forest returned to its former tranquility. In the air, there were experts riding on demonic beasts. Qingcheng, where are you? An old man riding on a griffin asked. Mo Qingcheng's beautiful eyes flickered as she replied, I'm not sure. I was intercepted by Chu Tianjiao, and Luo Qianqiu chased after Qin Wentian. Luo Qianqiu again. A cold glint of light flickered in the eyes of the old man. Beside him, there was another expert. It was none other than Ren Qianqing. This Chu Tianjiao's actions are crazy and audacious, and he dares to do anything. Not only that, he's also very close to that person. If he were to become the Emperor Star Academy, I'm afraid that in the future, the Emperor Star Academy would be in danger. Ren Qianqing spoke in a low voice, as he cast his gaze towards the depths of the dark forest. Qianqing, just like what Qingqing said, Qin Wentian's talent is in no way inferior to Luo Qianqiu's. Not only that, he's also someone who values relationships. Now that I'm in a desperate situation, if he survives, the Emperor Star Academy will definitely do its best to support us. The old man spoke, causing Ren Qianqing to nod his head. I've already planned to include him in my plans. If he survives, the Emperor's Star Academy will pave the way for him. As the sound of his voice faded, they continued their search in the depths of the dark forest. However, they still couldn't find any traces of Qin Wentian, not even his corpse. Chapter 84. In the depths of the dark forest, there was a hillside that very few people set foot on. There was not the slightest bit of demonic qi in this place. It was a pure land. On top of a gigantic boulder, a silhouette could be seen lying on it. This silhouette was none other than Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian did not even know where he was. He only knew that he had to protect his will. The 12 linked chains needle technique. Uncle Black had once warned him not to use the needles before stepping into Yuanfu. He had no way to withstand the explosive power of his bloodline limit. Previously, it was only because he was under the care of those from the Emperor's Star Academy that he managed to escape unscathed. But this time around, not only did he have to use the needles, his body was also severely injured. How could his life not be in danger? At this moment, Qin Wentian had no strength left in his body. He could only maintain his vitality with his strong willpower. I can cultivate in my dreams. Qin Wentian was very clear that for cultivators, strength would allow their vitality to flourish. If he wanted to live, he had to recover his strength first. However, to his astonishment, he discovered that this space seemed to be isolated from the heavens and earth. He had no way to sense the constellations around him, nor was he able to draw astral energy into his body. This situation made Qin Wentian feel a little desperate. Without energy in his body, he might even starve to death in a few days. Could it be that this place will be my burial ground? Qin Wentian's heart was filled with reluctance. He couldn't die here. He wanted to break through the shackles of this space. His strong will gave birth to a powerful dream consciousness, allowing him to spy on this space. On this vast and empty land, he was the only one lying on a gigantic rock, feeling so helpless. But at this moment, in his dream, he saw a mountain peak that was faintly discernible not too far away, piercing through the heavens. This is not my dream. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. After which, more mountain peaks appeared, all the way until there were 9 towering peaks that towered into the heavens. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with awe. The 9 peaks were like objects from beyond the heavens, faintly discernible. Was this all real, or was it a dream? Even Qin Wentian himself couldn't tell the difference. Qin Wentian's will drifted about as he saw a scene of a middle-aged man in green robes roaming the world. He arrived at the top of a mountain, and upon seeing the beautiful scenery, he decided to take a nap on a huge rock. When he fell asleep, 9 peaks appeared around the hillside. Then, countless images appeared on the 9 peaks. Qin Wentian's eyes couldn't take it all in. He saw the middle-aged man plucking a constellation from the sky with a single hand, he saw the green-robed middle-aged man cleaving apart mountains and rivers with a single slash, and he even saw the middle-aged man piercing a hole in the heavens with a single finger. However, everything seemed to be a dream. After the middle-aged man woke up, he patted the dust off his body and smiled. After that, he walked away in a carefree and unrestrained manner. As for the mountain peaks, they disappeared without a trace. In a dream, I can travel the world, in a dream, I can see the past and present, in a dream, I can pluck the stars and moon, in a dream, I am the craziest. Life is but a dream, why not be carefree and have a great dream? The middle-aged man laughed in a carefree and unrestrained manner, leaving behind a great dream on the hillside. A great dream. Qin Wentian's heart trembled slightly. His will drifted towards a certain mountain peak as the image of the mountain flickered unceasingly. In an instant, Qin Wentian felt a suction force gushing over, wanting to devour his will. He discovered that he was already in the image of the mountain peak. This place seemed to be recording a dream. The middle-aged man in green transformed into a kunpeng, soaring between the heavens and the earth. That pair of huge eyes suddenly stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian only felt a terrifying demonic light flashing in the eyes, sharper than swords. With a miserable shriek, Qin Wentian felt as though he was about to die. No! Qin Wentian roared in his heart. His consciousness was still alive in this world, how could he die? Since it's just a dream, why would I be afraid of this heaven-dominating qi? Qin Wentian abruptly inclined his head, not fearing that pair of demonic eyes at all. It was as though a myriad of beams of light could penetrate through his body, yet his heart remained unmoved. The Kunpeng soared through the heavens and earth, riding the wind for tens of thousands of miles. Who could compete with its speed? Qin Wentian's heart trembled violently. His consciousness retreated from this image and entered the second mountain peak. In the second mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green transformed into an ancient deity, capable of plucking the stars from the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian didn't know how many times he had died. Time and time again, he endured that destructive intent, using his strongest will to prevent his consciousness from being extinguished. On the third mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green could shatter mountains and rivers with a single finger. With a single point of his finger, the heavens and earth were destroyed, everything was destroyed. On the fourth mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green roared, causing the mountains to crumble and the earth to split apart. On the ninth mountain peak, the middle-aged man in green could see through everything with a single glance. All living beings would be annihilated under his gaze. It was unknown how many times Qin Wentian had experienced the agony of being on the verge of death. Under that kind of pressure, he was like a grain of sand in a desert, so insignificant and insignificant. However, he still managed to preserve his life. 9 ancient mountains, 9 types of towering wills. Each and every one of them possessed the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian's consciousness retreated as he sighed. What a great dream! Although the middle-aged man in green had left behind a dream here and his strength was extraordinary, Qin Wentian didn't believe that the 9 mountain peaks were real. Just like what the middle-aged man in green had said, life was just a dream. Why not be carefree and unrestrained? 9 ancient mountains, 9 dreams. Why aren't these the 9 abilities of the middle-aged man in green? Qin Wentian mused in his heart. Each dream contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. But why couldn't the middle-aged man in green magnify his strength to the max, allowing him to have a great dream? Genius! Qin Wentian sighed. This middle-aged man in green was definitely a genius. He had once thought that the great dream astral soul required a specific innate technique to unleash its power. However, the middle-aged man in green had given him a huge shock. Dreams, in and of themselves, were a type of power. The power of dreams could be found everywhere. Qin Wentian seriously contemplated. Right now, he had calmed down and was no longer as fearful of death as before. He wouldn't die. This kind of conviction grew stronger and stronger. Let's have a grand dream. Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice, protecting the strand of his will as he contemplated the painting of the 9 peaks. Time slowly flowed by. On the first mountain peak, the painting shone with a resplendent light. At this moment, in the dark forest, many demonic beasts could be seen heading in this direction. After a period of time, they saw a second mountain peak appearing. Momentarily, a terrifying sealing force appeared, causing the demonic beasts to tremble in fear. These demonic beasts knew that this place sealed all external energy. Without Yuan Qi, without demonic Qi, they would be trapped in a dream, not knowing where they were. However, at this moment, in that space, the dreamlike mountain peak actually appeared, emitting a resplendent light. When the 9 mountain peaks lit up, a terrifying energy permeated the air. Terrifying waves of energy gushed forth, enveloping the entire dark forest, sealing everything. The demonic beasts started to go into a frenzy as they frantically tried to escape. In the air, the black-winged condor's eyes gleamed with sharpness as it stared in that direction. Did that young man who could create dreams really resonate with that dream? The 9 mountain peaks converged together in the air, transforming into a resplendent screen that isolated everything from the outside world. In the middle of that screen, in Qin Wentian's dream, a silhouette flickered. This silhouette was none other than the middle-aged man in green. Naturally, only Qin Wentian could see the appearance of the middle-aged man in green. At this moment, he was smiling as he stood in the air, staring at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian pays his respects to Senior. Is this a dream? Qin Wentian couldn't help but to respectfully greet the middle-aged man. This is my dream will. You can enter my dreams and allow a strand of my dream will to manifest itself. I'll bestow upon you a stroke of good fortune. What do you want? The middle-aged man smiled as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared at the screen of light in the air as he spoke. Senior, you must have used a sealing technique to seal this dream here, right? I want the 9 mountain peaks to not obstruct my cultivation. That's simple. The middle-aged man's footsteps trembled as the sealing technique shattered. From now on, this sealing technique will not obstruct your cultivation. What else do you want? I want the demonic qi of the dark forest to be absorbed into my body, transforming into the Kuanping imprint. Qin Wentian spoke again, only to see the middle-aged man grabbing out with his palm. Momentarily, the entire forest howled as boundless demonic qi gathered there, transforming into a terrifying vortex that flowed unceasingly into Qin Wentian's body. If you can't digest it, this can't be considered good fortune. What else do you want? The middle-aged man continued. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness, akin to an unsheathed sword. The reason why he was in such a dangerous situation today was all because of the third prince of Chu, as well as Luo Qianqiu and the others. In the future, he would definitely repay them. I want this Chu country to not be able to obstruct my path. Qin Wentian's voice rang out. The middle-aged man laughed again. I'll leave this for you to do, it can't be considered a request. Obtaining this opportunity can be considered good fortune, Junior doesn't dare to ask for too much. In the future, if there's a chance to meet with Senior again, I will definitely thank you personally. Qin Wentian respectfully replied. A good fortune, a dream. Since you are able to activate the dream I left behind, allowing me to manifest my dream will, this can also be considered good fortune. Even if you don't want good fortune, I will still bestow you good fortune. This is my path of cultivation, it has nothing to do with you. The middle-aged man laughed. After which, his eyes flickered as a resplendent imprint rushed into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness trembled as he awoke from the dream. Chapter 85. Qin Wentian lay alone on top of a gigantic boulder. There was no movement at all, only a gentle breeze could be heard. However, every time night fell, the gigantic boulder on the hillside would emit a resplendent glow of astral light. Above the dome of heaven, specks of astral light cascaded downwards, illuminating the silhouette lying on top of the boulder. It was as though this was an eternal scene. The second level of the Dreamcast art, Immerse Dreams, allowed one to absorb astral energy at an even faster rate. Not only that, Qin Wentian had comprehended something in his heart, allowing the astral light to unceasingly enter his body, circulating through his entire body, replenishing his energy and breaking through his meridians. Occasionally, Qin Wentian would use the Dreamcast art to cultivate his innate technique. In his dreams, there was nothing he couldn't do. For cultivators, as long as they could absorb astral energy, it didn't matter if they didn't eat or drink. Astral energy was energy. The weather gradually turned cold. Occasionally, a cold wind would brush past, fluttering the robes of the youth. However, his eyes were still closed, as though he was in an eternal slumber. Today, the sky was dark. Raindrops continuously dripped onto the body of the youth, drenching his robes. However, he was still in a deep slumber, as though he had entered a state of oblivion. In the sky, the sound of thunder rumbled, the cold wind howled, and lightning flashed down from the heavens. The youth was still unmoved. However, his countenance gradually changed. The contours of his face became more distinct, and he seemed to be even more determined. The winter snow drifted down, covering the body of the youth, as though he was wearing a layer of snow-white clothing. Snow also drifted down in the royal capital of Chu. Today, the youths of the various academies stood outside their houses, forgetting their cultivation as they admired the beautiful snowy scenery. In the Royal Academy, there were many students strolling in the snow. Many of them were lovers. Although their cultivation bases weren't high, they were still in the prime of their youth, the most beautiful period of their lives. After this age, if they decided to pursue the martial path, they would never be able to find the simplicity they had today. The path of the martial path was filled with hardships and cruelty. Mu Rou inclined her head, gazing at the drifting snow in the sky. She sighed in her heart. It had been over 2 months, yet she hadn't seen his silhouette in the City of Illusions, nor had she heard any news about him. Perhaps, like many other talented youths, he had died prematurely in his youth, and he might not even be well known by others. The history he had created in the Emperor's Star Academy might have caused quite a commotion, but this commotion would soon be washed away by the passing of time. There would be new characters appearing, attracting the attention of the crowd. In the vast royal capital of Chu, there had never been a lack of talented youths. Last year, it was Luo Qinqiu. This year, it was Qin Wentian. However, Luo Qinqiu was still creating his own story. Beside her, the sound of footsteps rang out. Mu Rou turned around and saw Yi Zhan and Lu Yan. Yi Zhan used his family connections to bring Lu Yan to the royal school. Mu Rou glanced at Lu Yan, who was standing beside Yi Zhan. This young girl didn't have a bad heart. It was just that she had come from a small place and experienced many things in the royal capital. It was inevitable that she would develop her own values and choose the life she wanted. And the life she was currently living was undoubtedly what she wanted. This couldn't be blamed on her. It was just that Qin Wentian had said that he had once saved Lu Yan and Lu Yu. Back then, when Qin Wentian was facing that kind of situation, Lu Yan chose to remain silent, appearing to be somewhat heartless. However, everyone had their own ambitions. Mu Rou didn't have the qualifications to blame Lu Yan. At the very most, she wouldn't have anything to do with Lu Yan. Mu Rou, I heard that because of you, the Mu clan has been distanced from by many other clans. Do you want to consider befriending Yanaro? After all, Yanaro has always been interested in you. Yi Zhan spoke in a light voice, causing Mu Rou's countenance to stiffen, as she felt somewhat unhappy. The incident that happened a few months ago in the royal clan's hunting grounds had naturally spread out. Although she emphasized that it was only her personal opinion, the old foxes of the various clans were all extremely meticulous in their actions. Even if it was because of the attitude of the third prince, Chu Tianjiao, they wouldn't be too close to the Mu clan. Hence, the Mu clan had been distanced from by many other clans. As for Mu Rou, she was under immense pressure. Currently, the cultivation resources of the Mu clan were gradually getting further and further away from her. There's no need for you to worry about my matters. Mu Rou calmly replied, but in her heart, she sighed. In the past, her relationship with Chu Ling was so good, but after that incident, Chu Ling didn't just give her the cold shoulder for a few days. Instead, Chu Ling had completely severed all ties with her, even coldly glaring at her whenever they met. Hee, because of a dead man. Yi Zhan mocked, as he walked past Mu Rou. Lu Yan, who was beside him, lowered her head, not saying a single word. Because of a dead man? Mu Rou sighed. Had he really died? Mu Rou also didn't know why she couldn't forget about Qin Wentian. Naturally, this couldn't be considered as love. She had only met the masked Qin Wentian once. Maybe it was because of the fateful encounter in the City of Illusions, causing her to feel a faint trace of longing for him in her heart. In the Emperor's Star Academy, in a loft, a graceful silhouette stood there. This silhouette was none other than the #1 beauty of Chu, Mo Qingcheng. Qingcheng, why do you have the time to visit an old man like me today? Old Gu walked over. This old man was none other than Mustang's master, Old Gu. Grandfather. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes turned to Old Gu as she asked, is there still no news of him? Old Gu naturally understood who Mo Qingqing was referring to, as he sighed in his heart. It had been so many days since Qin Wentian had returned. What a pity for a young man like him. Qingqing, it's very rare for you to show concern for someone. Old Gu laughed, as though he was intentionally changing the topic, causing Mo Qingqing to roll her eyes. Is there no hope? AI. Old Gu gazed into the distance, as he shook his head and smiled bitterly. I didn't know that Chu Tianjiao would be so ruthless and decisive. He actually made use of the banquet held by Qin Yao to act, not caring about the public opinion. Not only that, he used Qin Chuan as a bait. Compared to the first prince, this Chu Tianjiao is truly too ruthless. What a pity, the chances of the first prince controlling Chu are too slim. Grandfather, why can't the Mo clan step out to help the Qin clan? Mo Qingqing asked. After all, the Mo clan has a connection with Qin Wu. Things aren't as simple as you think. Behind the scenes, things are much more complicated than you think. The Mo clan stands aloof from the outside world, so naturally, it wouldn't be good for them to interfere. Old Gu calmly continued, do you still remember the joke your grandfather made with Qin Wu back then? If their descendants were of the opposite sex, they would become in-laws. A trace of a smile appeared on Old Gu's face. If the Qin clan was still the Qin clan of the past, maybe you and Qin Wentian would really have a connection. How long ago was that? Not only that, Qin Wentian isn't the son of Qin Chuan. Mo Qingqing laughed. Evidently, she had also heard of this matter from her elders. However, ever since the Qin clan moved to Sky Harmony City, the relationship between the Qin clan and the Mo clan was no longer as close as before. Now, as long as that fellow is still alive, everything will be fine. Mo Qingqing's beautiful eyes gazed into the distance as she silently prayed. Is Qin Yao still doing well? Mo Qingqing suddenly asked. Back then, when the people from the Emperor's Star Academy were searching for Qin Wentian, they didn't manage to find Qin Wentian. Instead, they found Qin Yao and brought her back to the Emperor's Star Academy. At the very least, there won't be any danger in the academy. Old Gu replied. Mo Qingqing lightly nodded her head. Chu Tianjiao will definitely not spare Qin Yao. Old Gu murmured. Based on my understanding of him, he wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal in the dark forest. Grandfather, do you mean that Chu Tianjiao will use Qin Chuan to threaten Qin Yao again? However, he has already done it once. What use would it be? To a person who values relationships, as long as Qin Chuan is in his hands, even if he did the same thing 100 times, Qin Yao would still fall into his trap. Old Gu shook his head. He understood this logic, so did Chu Tianjiao. Mo Qingqing could only remain silent. The dark forest was similarly covered in a thick layer of snow. At this moment, at the edge of the dark forest, a gigantic black-winged condor swooped down, landing on the ground and sweeping away the accumulated snow. From the back of the black-winged condor, a youth of about 17 years of age leapt down. He was clad in a beast-skin coat, and his youthful features were gradually shedding away, revealing a devilishly handsome countenance. This youth was none other than Qin Wentian. Senior, thank you for your kindness. Qin Wentian turned and thanked the black-winged condor. If it wasn't for the black-winged condor's help back then, he would have already died in the dark forest, becoming food in the stomachs of demonic beasts. A low voice emitted from the black-winged condor's beak. Qin Wentian laughed, don't worry, I will remember Senior's kindness in my heart. In the future, when I'm proficient in using the power of my bloodline, I will definitely make a trip there to gift Senior 3 drops of my blood essence. It was as though the black-winged condor understood Qin Wentian's words. Its gigantic wings fluttered in the air, and its body soared up into the skies, creating a terrifying hurricane that whistled through the air. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at the disappearing black-winged condor. His heart was filled with bewilderment. He didn't know why the black-winged condor wanted his blood essence. Maybe there was something special about his bloodline. Back then when he was injured and fainted, many demonic beasts took a detour to avoid him. Not thinking too much, Qin Wentian turned around, and with his back facing the dark forest, he once again walked in the direction of the royal capital. On the snow-covered ground, footprints appeared. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a brilliance that was even sharper than a sword. This majestic and towering imperial city could not block his path forward. Chapter 86. The winter of Chu was extremely cold. Snowflakes fluttered about in the air, and many of the pedestrians on the streets wore cloaks. However, some of the stronger wuxios still wore thin clothes, ignoring the cold. Qin Wentian wore a simple beast skin cloak as he walked through the snow. Occasionally, he would pass by a few inns, and there would be some hot-blooded men drinking wine to ward off the cold as they discussed the major events in Chu. Such a snowy scenery, accompanied by fine wine, and coincidentally, a good friend is passing by. This is the most wonderful thing in life. At this moment, a clear voice drifted into his ears. Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the right, only to see a simple and crude house with a wine stall outside. There was only one table of customers, and there were two of them. Since a good friend is here, why not invite him over for a drink? Another person spoke. This person seemed to be in his late 20s, and had delicate features. Although he looked ordinary, he gave off an extraordinary feeling. This person's eyes were clear and spirited, and his smile was gentle, causing others to feel a sense of closeness towards him. "Brother Qin, how is it?" The first person who spoke turned and looked in Qin Wentian's direction with a smile. This young man was none other than Immortal Drunken Wine, and he was currently drinking wine with his friend. "Just nice, I'm borrowing the wine to ward off the cold." Qin Wentian laughed as he stepped into the wine stall. He cast a glance at the young man and asked, "May I ask who you are?" "Meeting because of wine, regardless of origin. If fate wills it, we will be friends again." The young man poured a cup of wine for Qin Wentian as he spoke with a smile. His demeanor was extremely carefree, not losing out to Immortal Drunken Wine in the slightest. "Meeting because of wine, regardless of origin. Just because of this, I have to drink a large bowl." Qin Wentian laughed. "Are you sure?" The young man stared at Qin Wentian with a smile that was not a smile. "Of course." Qin Wentian nodded. The young man smiled and filled Qin Wentian's cup to the brim. As the wine entered his body, Qin Wentian's eyes widened, and he was actually unable to swallow it in a single gulp. Cough, cough. Putting down the bowl, Qin Wentian coughed a few times. His face was flushed red, causing the young man in Immortal Drunken Wine to burst into laughter. "You brat, do you know how strong this wine is? You actually dared to boast about it." Immortal Drunken Wine laughed happily when he saw the embarrassed look on Qin Wentian's face. Qin Wentian shook his head and smiled bitterly, rolling his eyes at Immortal Drunken Wine. "Why didn't you remind me? You said you wanted to drink a big bowl." The young man also said with a smile. Qin Wentian had no choice but to pick up the bowl and force himself to pour the wine down his throat. His face was already red. "It's your turn," Qin Wentian said to the young man. "All right, it's my turn." The young man laughed as he poured himself a cup of wine and gulped it down in a single gulp. When he placed the cup down, his expression didn't change in the slightest, causing Qin Wentian to sweat in his heart. This young man's alcohol tolerance was probably on par with Immortal Drunken Wine. "How about 2 more bowls?" The young man looked at Qin Wentian and laughed, causing Qin Wentian to roll his eyes. "Is there anyone who bullies others like this?" "I'll wait for you to train your alcohol tolerance before drinking again." The young man stood up and said to Immortal Drunken Wine, "If there's an opportunity in the future, bring this little brother here for a drink." As he spoke, he took the cloak and bamboo hat beside him and stepped into the snow, slowly departing. His footsteps were extremely slow, just like an ordinary person. This caused Qin Wentian to feel that this person was extraordinary. This person's strength should be extraordinary, right? Qin Wentian asked Immortal Drunken Wine. Immortal Drunken Wine shook his head as he stared at the back of the young man, feeling that it was a pity. This man is extremely intelligent and has a high sense of righteousness. The only regretful thing is that he can't cultivate. Immortal Drunken Wine sighed, his words causing Qin Wentian's countenance to stiffen as a look of bewilderment flashed in his eyes. Immortal Drunken Wine was a straightforward person. Since he said that the young man was extremely intelligent and righteous, it was obvious that the young man was an extraordinary character. However, it was truly a pity that such a person couldn't cultivate. Qin Wentian couldn't help but think of himself. Back then, when he couldn't cultivate, he was also treated coldly by many people. If the other party was an ordinary person, it would still be fine. But if he was born in a noble family, it would be extremely difficult for him to survive. And from the aura of the young man, it seemed that the latter was more likely. Nowadays, there are rumors saying that you've already died. Who would have thought that you would appear here today? How gratifying! Immortal Drunken Wine smiled as he raised his cup to Qin Wentian. My luck isn't bad, it can be said that I've escaped death. Qin Wentian laughed. This time, it was even more dangerous than when he was chased by Orphan. If not for the wave of demonic beasts, if not for the black-winged condor, if not for that stroke of good fortune, he would have already been buried in the dark forest. Just like what many people had told him, there were many geniuses in the outside world, but the number of geniuses who died prematurely was also not small. One who survives a great calamity is bound to have good fortune later on. Immortal Drunken Wine didn't probe any further. What do you plan to do next? Return to the academy? Before returning to the academy, I'm preparing to make a trip to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Didn't you say that you wanted me to gift you a good sword? Do you want to come with me? Qin Wentian smiled as he looked at Immortal Drunken Wine. Immortal Drunken Wine's eyes lit up as he laughed. It seems like you've made some progress in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Let's go, I'll accompany you to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. As he spoke, Immortal Drunken Wine stood up and walked with Qin Wentian on the snowy ground, heading towards the direction of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Their pace was extremely fast. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's return, Francis was also extremely happy. He had always been paying close attention to news regarding Qin Wentian. Not long ago, there was a rumor that Qin Wentian had died in the dark forest, causing him to be extremely worried. After knowing the purpose of Qin Wentian's visit, Francis informed Yang Chen. After which, Yang Chen sent over 3 other powerful weaponsmiths to Francis's personal weaponsmithing hall. Together with Francis, they used the most suitable materials to forge a divine weapon. Only the most important step, the inscribing of divine inscriptions, was left to Qin Wentian. The final result caused Yang Chen to be extremely excited, because the divine weapon forged was a second-level high-grade origin sword. The value of this type of sword was extremely high. It was able to amplify the strength of cultivators at the upper 3 levels of the arterial circulation realm, and even more so for cultivators at the middle and lower 3 levels of the arterial circulation realm. In addition to the Yuan storage effect, once he had a suitable innate technique, the power he could unleash would be terrifying. Qin Wentian gifted Immortal Drunken Wine a second-level high-grade origin sword. Currently, he was only able to forge second-level divine weapons. If one day he was able to forge a third-level divine weapon, he would gift Immortal Drunken Wine another one. Qin Wentian's comprehension of divine inscriptions had improved, and he was able to forge a second-level high-grade origin sword. Naturally, he wouldn't lack Yuan meteor stones for his cultivation in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Qin Wentian didn't immediately return to the Emperor's Star Academy. Instead, he asked Yang Chen to help him gather information about Qin Yao. After learning that Qin Yao was currently in the Emperor's Star Academy, his heart was at ease, and he was filled with gratitude. Luckily, the Emperor's Star Academy was willing to help him. According to Yang Chen, the person who made the decision was one of the 9 honorary elders of the Emperor's Star Academy. After that, Qin Wentian spent his days sleeping. Even Francis didn't know what he was doing. However, at this moment, in Qin Wentian's dreams, he stood in an empty world. In this world, it was as though he was the only person. In front of Qin Wentian, there were 2 gigantic diagrams. One of the diagrams was extremely complicated, and the runic lines on it were constantly changing, as though they were manifesting divine imprints. This was one of the cultivation arts that Qin Wentian cultivated, the spirit refinement method. By comprehending the diagrams, one could borrow the power of the divine imprints, using the astral energy of heaven and earth to condense one's divine energy. The second diagram was slightly simpler. Every stroke was filled with a majestic aura. A single stroke depicted mountains and rivers, and a single stroke depicted the spring and autumn. This diagram was majestic, representing the mountains and rivers of heaven and earth. This diagram was the rivers and mountains diagram. It was a gift from the green-robed middle-aged man who was born in the 9 peaks of the dark forest. It was incomparably mystical. It was as though the middle-aged man had used his dreams to form a diagram, drawing out the heavens, earth, mountains, and rivers in his heart. Under the comprehension of the middle-aged man, the meridians of the human body, the various types of innate techniques, and even the transformations of the mountains and rivers could all be drawn out in this diagram. What a terrifying comprehension ability, to actually use dreams to form the rivers and mountains diagram. Not only that, the rivers and mountains diagram is actually a terrifying cultivation art like the spirit refinement method. A thought flashed in Qin Wentian's mind. The spirit refinement method used the power of divine imprints to condense divine energy, which could then be transformed into innate techniques. This was a method that very few people dared to think of. Faintly, there seemed to be a connection between the rivers and mountains diagram. From this, one could see how tyrannical the comprehension ability of the green-robed middle-aged man was. One could very well imagine that this middle-aged man was a peerless genius. Although the rivers and mountains diagram wasn't a cultivation art or innate technique, its value was still immeasurable. It was as though it could allow one to comprehend the myriad of existences in the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian could only slowly comprehend the profoundness contained within. Qin Wentian immersed himself in the 2 diagrams. Within these few days, he could feel that his comprehension of second-level divine imprints had improved tremendously. He could now easily inscribe second-level divine imprints. At the same time, the speed at which he condensed divine energy from his astral body grew increasingly faster. When the day came where he could condense divine energy in an instant, he would be able to use second-level divine imprints to condense his own divine energy. In the royal capital of Chu, snowflakes were still drifting about. The accumulated snow grew thicker and thicker. Many of the younger youths even piled up snowmen, while the older disciples of the martial academies were still busy with their cultivation, attempting to break through. At this moment, the demon-level genius of the Emperor's Star Academy, Luo Qianqiu, was sitting cross-legged on the roof of a building, allowing the snowflakes to drift about freely. However, the snowflakes couldn't even touch his body. Bolts of lightning crackled around him, emitting a terrifying aura. Within his body, the terrifying astral energy from the lightning attribute frenziedly gushed into his arterial pathways, wanting to open up another arterial pathway and step into the 8th level of arterial circulation. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was blocked. As he opened his eyes, flashes of lightning could be seen flickering within. He cast his gaze in the direction of the heavenly star pavilion. What his father had failed to accomplish in the past, he would definitely accomplish it. Retrieving a medicinal pill, Luo Qianqiu popped it into his mouth. After which, he closed his eyes again, continuing his breakthrough. Everyone was busy with their own matters. Today, a piece of shocking news circulated around the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Within the Divine Weapon Pavilion, a genius grandmaster was born. At such a young age, he was already able to inscribe third-level divine imprints, causing an uproar. Chapter 87. The news from the Divine Weapon Pavilion was undoubtedly shocking. Cultivators were always busy with their cultivation, and didn't have much time to comprehend divine inscriptions. In addition to the fact that inscribing divine inscriptions was exceedingly difficult, the best weaponsmiths were usually older, and would spend a large amount of time on comprehending and inscribing divine inscriptions. Naturally, stellar martial cultivators who had a forging-type astral soul would have an advantage in this aspect. But even so, it was impossible to inscribe a third-level divine inscription without tens of years of hard work. And now, the news from the Divine Weapon Pavilion stated that the genius grandmaster who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions was not even 20 years of age. This was undoubtedly a heavyweight piece of news in the world of weaponsmiths. Being able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions meant that as long as one had the assistance of an experienced weaponsmith, in addition to the necessary materials, they would be able to forge a third-level divine weapon. And these two things were not lacking in Chu. The reason why there were so few high-level weaponsmiths was because there were so few people who could inscribe high-grade divine inscriptions. Inscribing divine inscriptions was the most important step in the forging of divine weapons. However, just when many people were trying to find out who this young genius grandmaster was, the Divine Weapon Pavilion had completely sealed off the news. Evidently, the news that had been leaked by the Divine Weapon Pavilion wasn't intentionally leaked out, but was accidentally leaked by someone else. And the apprentice who leaked the news was currently under the strict control of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The loft that Qin Wentian resided in was tightly guarded. Yang Qin seemed to be loitering here, following Qin Wentian around, causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. Grandmaster Qin, as long as you agree to join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Yuan meteor stones you require for your future cultivation will all be provided by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Yang Qin spoke to Qin Wentian. Ever since he knew that Qin Wentian was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions, he had never left Qin Wentian's side, raising all sorts of conditions. A 17-year-old who was able to inscribe third-level divine inscriptions, there had never been such a character in the history of Chu. He was very clear on what he had to do. Even if I forge a divine weapon to exchange for it, it should be enough to support my cultivation at this stage. Qin Wentian replied, "What I lack now is not Yuan meteor stones." "I understand." Yang Qin smiled and said, "If it's a beautiful woman, I will try my best to satisfy Master Qin." As he spoke, Yang Qin gave Qin Wentian a dubious look, causing Qin Wentian to be speechless. "Old Yang, just call me Wentian." Qin Wentian bitterly smiled as he shook his head. Being addressed as Grandmaster Qin sounded a little awkward. "Yang Qin, how did it go with Master Qin?" At this moment, a melodious voice drifted over from outside, causing Yang Chen's countenance to turn solemn as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Grandmaster Qin, the Vice Pavilion Lord of the Divine Weapon Pavilion is here personally." Qin Wentian was startled as well. The Vice Pavilion Lord of the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Considering the wealth of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the Vice Pavilion Lord's status was definitely extraordinary. Very quickly, Qin Wentian saw a beautiful lady walking in. This lady looked to be around 25 years of age, with exquisite facial features, fair skin, and an alluring figure. Just a single glance at her would cause one's heart to flutter. "What a handsome fellow. I'll just call you Wentian. My name is Lu Yen. If you don't mind, you can just call me Sister Yen." The lady's voice was clear and melodious, as though it had a special charm to it, causing those who heard it to feel comfortable. With a single greeting, it was as though the distance between her and Qin Wentian had shortened. "Sister Yen." Qin Wentian smiled as he returned the greeting. Yang Qin doesn't really know how to entertain people, so don't blame him. "I'm here to tell you that from today onwards, all the resources of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will be open to you, including cultivation arts, innate techniques, and even high-level divine imprints. At the same time, the Yuan meteor stones that you require for your cultivation will be provided by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The information network of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will also be open to you, and if you need help, the Yuan Fu realm experts of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will also be willing to help you. And Lu Yen smiled as she spoke, causing Yang Chen and Francis, who were standing at the side, to tremble in fear. Such conditions were simply too terrifying. What do I need to do? Qin Wentian knew that in order to gain something, there must be a price to pay. The Divine Weapon Pavilion doesn't have any requirements for you. And Liu Yan's smile bloomed like a blossoming flower as she passed a token to Qin Wentian. This token will grant you the authority of a vice pavilion head, the same as mine. Qin Wentian didn't stretch his hands out to receive it, but Lu Yen stepped forward and grabbed Qin Wentian's hand, before stuffing the token into Qin Wentian's hands. Little fellow, I want to see how you are going to freeload. And Liu Yan's beautiful eyes winked at Qin Wentian, before she left with a smile on her face, leaving behind a speechless Qin Wentian. The Divine Weapon Pavilion didn't have any requirements for him, but just like in Liu Yan's final words, how could he be so shameless as to freeload? The reason why the Divine Weapon Pavilion had such a magnanimous attitude towards him was because they had investigated Qin Wentian's background and character. Only then did they make such a decision. Brother Wentian, if you have any problems in the future, feel free to look for me. Yang Chen cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, as he sighed in his heart. The pavilion head was still the most decisive, not giving Qin Wentian a chance to reject. Seems like I've been tricked. After Yang Chen left, Qin Wentian stared at the token in his hands. Only now did he realize that from the moment Lu Yen walked in, he had only spoken a single sentence. It was as though she didn't even give him a chance to reject, and everything was so natural. Although the conditions proposed by Lu Yen could be said to be perfect, Qin Wentian couldn't help but to admire her methods. I'm going out for a walk. Qin Wentian spoke to Francis. After which, he donned his beast skin robe and walked out. Outside, the sky was still filled with drifting snowflakes. Qin Wentian inclined his head and cast a glance at the sky as he murmured in his heart. This winter's snow, he didn't know when it would stop. During these few days, Qin Wentian had always been extremely tense. At this moment, he wanted to relax and take a walk. Unknowingly, he arrived at the main hall of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Although it was snowing outside, it was still bustling with noise and excitement. Many people were busy choosing their own divine weapons. Qin Wentian glanced around, and when his gaze landed on a certain direction, his eyes involuntarily narrowed. He saw a familiar face that he hadn't seen for a long time. Star River Association, Grandmaster Murin. Wu Xiu's senses were extremely sharp. Murin could sense that someone was paying attention to him, and after that, he also noticed Qin Wentian. His eyes flickered with astonishment, but he soon laughed, as though he was looking at Qin Wentian with disdain. I heard that you got Gretchen to warn me. Not only that, you caused quite a commotion back in the academy. You're really lucky to be able to appear before me alive. Murin's countenance was the same as back then in the Sky Harmony City. Although he appeared calm and indifferent, there was a hint of arrogance in his bones. Back then, when Qin Wentian didn't agree to become his disciple, he tricked Qin Wentian into joining the Star River Association. After which, Qin Wentian and the members of the Qin clan almost lost their lives there. From the start to the end, Murin had never placed him and the members of the Qin clan in his eyes. It was as though they were just tools to be used by him. If it was before, Qin Wentian might have been enraged when he saw Murin. But now, although he was enraged in his heart, his expression was extremely calm, as though he didn't care about Murin's words. I heard that Grandmaster Murin is a weaponsmith from the Star River Association. Why did you come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Are you here to purchase a divine weapon? Since when did you have the right to interfere in my matters? Murin mocked. Naturally, he didn't come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion to purchase a divine weapon. Rather, he wanted to see if he could find out the identity of the genius grandmaster who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Back then, Qin Wentian was already capable of inscribing simple second-level divine inscriptions. But even so, Murin didn't dare to associate him with the person he wanted to find out. Not even a year had passed, and as a weaponsmith, he knew very well how difficult it was to raise one's divine inscriptions to the next level. And now, he was still stuck at the second level, because he had no way to comprehend and inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. I can't be bothered with Grandmaster Murin's matters. I only hope that Grandmaster Murin will remember the despicable deeds he committed back then in the Sky Harmony City. Retribution will come sooner or later. Qin Wentian laughed. Murin coldly snorted as he continued, let's hope that you can survive until that day. After speaking, he flicked his sleeves and departed. Since Qin Wentian had already pointed out his identity as a weaponsmith from the Star River Association, he naturally wouldn't be able to continue staying here. Not to mention, he couldn't lower himself to deal with a junior like Qin Wentian in public. Hence, he could only leave. What a spoilsport! Qin Wentian murmured in a low voice. After which, he walked out of the Star River Association and casually strolled about in the snow, allowing the snowflakes to land on his body as they melted. After strolling about for a while, Qin Wentian didn't know where he had gone to. In the distance, a white silhouette that seemed to have fused together with the snow could be seen sprinting about, and when it arrived in front of Qin Wentian, it transformed into a blur as it leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace. Little rascal! Qin Wentian froze. He hugged Little Rascal as a gentle smile appeared on his face. Little Rascal, why are you here? After speaking, Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared ahead, only to see a silhouette jogging over and stopping in front of Qin Wentian. On the snowy ground, a white fur coat covered her perfect figure, revealing only a countenance that could topple the world. Mo Qingqing stopped in front of Qin Wentian, lowering her head as a smile appeared on her face. Lifting her perfect countenance once again, Mo Qingqing faced Qin Wentian. Let's get to know each other again. My name is Mo Qingqing. My name is Qin Wentian. A gentle smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at that clean and perfect countenance. Outside the Sky Harmony City, thank you for saving me. It's nothing much, it was Little Rascal who brought me there. Mo Qingqing smiled. Let's go sit at the side. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded. The two of them walked to an ancient tree. Qin Wentian took off his beast skin coat and placed it on the tree. The two of them sat there with their backs against the tree. Mo Qingqing glanced at Qin Wentian, as though she didn't know what to say. She could only stretch out her hands, allowing the snowflakes to land on her delicate hands as she smiled. How beautiful the snow is. Qin Wentian nodded his head, and didn't say anything else. He quietly admired the beautiful scene of the falling snowflakes. Little Rascal lay quietly in the middle of the two of them, as though he was sleeping. The handsome young man and the beautiful young lady, as well as the falling snowflakes, formed a beautiful scene. Occasionally, passers-by would exclaim in their hearts when they passed by. This scene lasted for quite some time. Mo Qingqing turned her gaze to Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian also looked at her, still amazed by her beauty. You are really a dummy. Mo Qingqing giggled. After which, she stood up and walked away. The young lady slowly walked through the snow as her silhouette gradually disappeared. Dummy? Qin Wentian was stunned. Very dumb. Qin Wentian stared at Little Rascal in his arms as a radiant smile appeared on his face. Little Rascal nodded its head repeatedly, causing black lines to appear on Qin Wentian's face. As expected of Little Rascal, it was truly a bastard. Chapter 88. The accumulated snow in the royal capital grew thicker and thicker. Qin Wentian stood in the pavilion, gazing out as he wondered how long it would take for the snow to stop. Below the pavilion, a silhouette could be seen treading through the snow. Inclining his head, he stared at Qin Wentian. Wentian, the information you wanted, I've helped you find out. Upon hearing this, Qin Wentian leapt down from the pavilion, landing on the snowy ground. Uncle Yang, how is my father? Qin Wentian asked the Divine Weapon Pavilion to help him gather information on Qin Chuan. A few months ago, the news of the banquet was leaked out. Many people were dissatisfied with the way the royal clan handled things. After all, the Qin clan was the descendant of a loyal subject. Hence, Chu Tianjiao wanted Qin Chuan to plead guilty. Yang Chen stated to Qin Wentian, your father naturally wasn't willing. Hence, the royal clan decided that 2 days later, Qin Chuan would be escorted into the royal capital. My father is a man of iron and blood, he definitely wouldn't be willing to suffer such humiliation. Qin Wentian's countenance abruptly turned sharp. I think so too. To your father, this is too cruel. Not only that, Qin Yao wouldn't be able to sit still. Maybe they want to use your father to lure Qin Yao out of the Emperor's Star Academy, and then use Qin Yao to threaten your father to plead guilty, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yang Chen stated in a low voice. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. Chu Tianjiao, this person, was too ruthless. What sort of character was his father, Qin Chuan? He would rather die than suffer such humiliation. I understand. Qin Wentian gazed at the drifting snowflakes in the air, not knowing what he was thinking. Wentian, this is a divine inscription ring, it can be used for storage. Although it's the simplest type of divine inscription ring, it can still store many things. Keep it. Yang Chen passed a stone ring to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian received it, and infused his astral energy into it. His heart trembled, he could actually feel that there was an internal dimension within the stone ring. This thing must be very precious, Qin Wentian said to Yang Chen. In our divine weapon pavilion, there's only one person capable of forging a divine inscription ring. This is because the spatial divine inscriptions are extremely valuable and extremely difficult to inscribe. Yang Chen smiled. Although he didn't directly reply, how could Qin Wentian not understand the value of this spatial divine inscription? Uncle Yang, I'll accept it. Qin Wentian smiled at Yang Chen. Work hard, this is the first time in my life that I've heard of a genius who can inscribe 3rd-rank divine inscriptions at the age of 17. Yang Chen smiled as he patted Qin Wentian on his shoulder. Qin Wentian was clear in his heart that the Divine Weapon Pavilion thought very highly of him. A powerful blacksmith could have endless wealth. If a 4th-ranked weaponsmith were to appear in the Chu country, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Many Yuanfu realm cultivators would all come to seek him out. Qin Wentian undoubtedly had this kind of potential. If there was a day where he could inscribe 4th-ranked divine inscriptions, the Divine Weapon Pavilion would be able to hire weaponsmiths to assist him in forging 4th-ranked divine weapons. Lifting his feet, Qin Wentian walked in the direction of the weaponsmithing hall, preparing to forge a divine weapon for himself. The snow on the ground of the royal capital was already half a foot thick. Numerous majestic buildings were covered in snow, and the entire city seemed to be enveloped in a layer of pure white. There was a faint chill in the air. Even so, at the martial platform of the royal capital, there were many people who braved the wind and snow to come here. It was said that today, the Yi clan would be leading the troops to escort Qin Chuan to the royal capital, as a punishment for his crimes. Qin Chuan of Sky Harmony City, the descendant of General Qin Wu, would he plead guilty on the martial platform? From afar, a group of cavalrymen gradually approached. Hundreds of soldiers were escorting the iron prison, and within the prison, there was a man with disheveled hair who resembled a beggar. Qin Chuan of the Qin clan. The spectators sighed in their hearts. The group of soldiers escorted Qin Chuan to the martial platform, and after which, a man mounted a horse and stood in front of Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan, the Qin clan has already revolted. Why don't you confess to your crimes, and admit that the Qin clan had long planned this, and hand over all the chess pieces we planted in the dark? That way, you can suffer less. That man spoke to Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan inclined his head and stared at the man, as a look of contempt flashed in his eyes. Bai Qingsong, you don't have the qualifications to question me. Scram. Qin Chuan's voice was filled with vigor, and his gaze was sharp as he stared straight at Bai Qingsong. Impudent. Beside him, a melodious voice drifted over. It was actually Autumn Snow. She sat atop her warhorse, staring down at Qin Chuan with a cold gaze. Autumn Snow, you and your father are only fit to be the lackeys of the Yi clan. What talent! You're still unable to condense your second astral soul, and without the help of my son Wentian, you wouldn't even be able to condense a third heavenly layer astral soul, and could only continue to strengthen your senses. Qin Chuan stared at Autumn Snow as he mocked, back then, I was blind, why would I agree to that marriage? Comparing you to Wentian is like comparing a crow to a phoenix. Impudent. Autumn Snow's countenance turned extremely unsightly, as though Qin Chuan had touched her sore spot. Indeed, she had yet to condense her second astral soul. It wasn't that she couldn't condense it, it was just that she wasn't able to freely choose an astral soul from the third heavenly layer. Hence, she wanted to continue cultivating, in order to strengthen her senses. Who would have thought that Qin Chuan, who was in the Black Stronghold, would actually know about this matter? Today, the escorts are under the responsibility of both the Yi and Yen clan. Your Bai clan can only be the vanguard, running some errands. Although Qin Chuan was in a dangerous situation, he was still as calm as ever, as though he had already disregarded life and death. Shut up, Qin Wentian is already a dead man. Yanaro galloped over, pointing his finger at Qin Chuan, as a sword intent gushed out from his body. Since he refuses to admit to his crimes, bring him away. Let's set off. Yanaro coldly commanded. Momentarily, the troops got into formation, and prepared to escort Qin Chuan through the royal capital. The passers-by on both sides of the road saw that the few people at the front of the troops were all members of the younger generation, including Yanaro from the Yen clan, Yizhan from the Yi clan. These great clans had already begun to allow their younger generations to roam the outside world. In the future, these youths would become the pillars of their clans. Within the crowd, a maiden clad in white robes and a conical bamboo hat could be seen clenching her fists tightly. This maiden was none other than Qin Yao. Beside Qin Yao, Luo Huan gently held onto her hand. Sister Luo Huan. Qin Yao gritted her teeth, as she struggled in her heart. Your father would definitely not be willing to see the scene from back then. Luo Huan softly stated. But, my father is a man of iron blood, how can he endure such humiliation? Qin Yao's voice trembled slightly. Luo Huan sighed, let's wait and see. I heard from teacher that Wentian is still alive, but I have no idea why he didn't return to the academy. I'm afraid that he might come today. As they conversed, the hooves of the horses and the wheels of the carriages trampled the snow on the ground, leaving a trail of tracks behind them. The troops escorting Qin Chuan set off. However, after a few steps, the person in front waved his hand, causing the carriages to halt. The gazes of the crowd shifted to the front. On the snowy ground, a skinny silhouette clad in a beast-skin coat and a conical bamboo hat stood there silently, giving off a feeling that he had always been there. Yanaro's gaze was as sharp as a sword, piercing towards that silhouette as he coldly spat out, Qin Wentian. As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Emperor Star Academy, Qin Wentian. Qin Yao and Luo Huan shifted their gazes over, as their beautiful eyes froze. It really was Qin Wentian. This fellow, he really came. Luo Huan sighed. What a young man, only knowing how to be impulsive. However, this kind of impulsiveness caused the hearts of the crowd to feel warm. Qin Wentian removed his conical bamboo hat and tossed it onto the snowy ground. His gaze didn't even glance at Yanaro, nor did he glance at Yizhan or Lu Yen. He didn't even glance at Bai Qingsong or Autumn Snow. Silly child. Qin Chuan stared at the silhouette of Qin Wentian standing amidst the snow. His skinny figure was so tall and straight, causing the eyes of this iron-blooded young man to turn slightly moist. It's not that a good man doesn't have tears, it's just that his emotions have yet to be stirred. This was already the second time that Qin Wentian had acted foolishly. Qin Chuan gazed at the skies, gazing at the falling snowflakes as he sighed in his heart. Since the heavens had given him such a young man, why did they have to arrange such a fate for him? Wentian, since you're still alive, why bother coming again? Qin Chuan sighed. A smile appeared in the eyes of the youth as he replied, as a son, how can I not come? I've already fallen into a dangerous situation. Since you can't change anything, why must you still be so foolish? Qin Chuan sighed. As a man in this life, I only wish to look up to the heavens and earth with a clear conscience. Since I already know, I can't not come. Qin Wentian continued smiling as he continued, at the very least, with me around, I will not allow anyone to humiliate my father. In the midst of the snowstorm, the silhouette of the youth stood tall and straight. His words were sonorous and forceful, causing the countenances of the surrounding crowd to waver. Youthful and hot-blooded. Wentian, well said. A melodious voice rang out. Qin Yao tossed her bamboo hat aside as she walked out from the crowd, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Wentian. Sis, why are you so foolish? Qin Wentian gazed at Qin Yao, as he gently stroked her face. Aren't you the same? Qin Yao replied, as the gazes of the two of them shifted onto the group of troops. Only to see a few troops galloping out on horseback, wielding long spears in their hands. Their countenances were sharp, and their killing intent could be seen flickering within. Capture them! Yanaro commanded. Momentarily, the troops transformed into a hurricane as they galloped towards the direction of Qin Wentian and Qin Yao. Snowflakes danced in the air, as the aura of the troops erupted forth. All of them were at the arterial circulation realm. From this, one could tell that this troop was an elite troop. Sis, let me do it. Qin Wentian pulled Qin Yao behind him, as he stood there with his back straight, as he stared at the warhorses galloping towards them. At this moment, the eyes of the youth were even sharper than swords. Chapter 89. The warhorses galloped forward, trampling the snow. Their long spears emitted a terrifying sharpness. Even before they arrived, their spears had already pierced out, resembling a venomous dragon, emitting a sharp whistling sound as they dashed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian took a step forward, causing the snow on the ground to explode. A raging wind gusted as a powerful aura erupted forth from his body. At this moment, he stood tall and straight, and every step he took contained a formless, majestic aura. Qi. Two long spears shot towards him from the left and right. Qin Wentian stomped on the ground again, causing the riders on their warhorses to feel a strong gust of wind buffeting them. Their eyes involuntarily narrowed. To think that Qin Wentian could actually unleash such a powerful aura. Abruptly, their long spears were grasped by a terrifying force. Scram! The terrifying force caused their bodies to be flung through the air, slamming into the riders behind them. In an instant, all of them fell off their warhorses. Qin Wentian walked slowly through the snow, his gaze sweeping towards Yanaro, Bai Qingsong, and the rest. He didn't expect that Bai Qingsong from the Bai clan would actually appear here. Yet another group of warhorses galloped forward, only to hear Yanaro calmly saying, "Let me do it." The riders halted, and Yanaro galloped forward, arriving in front of Qin Wentian as he stared down at the silhouette on the ground. 2 consecutive times, yet you still haven't died. Today, I shall grant you your wish, Yanaro calmly stated. Back then, with his cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, he couldn't even deal with Qin Wentian, and had always felt ashamed of himself. Now, his innate techniques were even stronger than before, and his cultivation base had already reached the peak of the 7th level, with the possibility of opening his 8th meridian at any time. His combat prowess was a notch higher than before. Today, he would let Qin Wentian die under his sword. Sword-type astral soul was released. This was Yanaro's second astral soul, originating from the third heavenly layer. A terrifying sword chi gushed forth from his body, and his eyes were akin to unsheathed swords. The falling snowflakes in the air were actually shattered by this sharp sword. Yanaro's broken sword incantation has already been cultivated to the third level. There's no suspense in this battle. Even if Qin Wentian's combat prowess has improved by leaps and bounds, he will still die in Yanaro's hands. A young knight stated as he witnessed the scene, causing the spectators to nod their heads in agreement. He should have died a long time ago. Bai Qingsong's eyes flashed with a cold light. It was a miracle that Qin Wentian was still alive today. Bai Qingsong, Wentian has already dared to face an entire army head-on, while you and your daughter, Autumn Snow, can only drag out an ignoble existence under someone else's roof. Qin Chuan sarcastically replied, his words causing Bai Qingsong's countenance to turn even colder. He stared at Qin Chuan and stated, when he's dead, you won't be saying this anymore. Yanaro sat down on his warhorse, as he took a step forward. Sword chi whistled through the air as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Between the two of them, the snowflakes no longer drifted down. Since you wish for death so much, today, I shall grant you your wish. Yanaro's hands formed a sword incantation, as a terrifying sword intent gushed forth from his fingertips. What a powerful aura! The spectators watched as Yanaro slowly advanced, while Qin Wentian stood there, as though he could be destroyed at any moment. You are not worthy. Qin Wentian took a step forward, causing the snow on the ground to shatter as a terrifying aura gushed forth. This aura didn't belong to any other power, it belonged only to him. Although Qin Wentian didn't have any absolute combat prowess, the aura he exuded was akin to that of a peerless expert, exuding an aura of carefree and unrestrained confidence. Huh? Yanaro furrowed his brows, but soon after, a smile appeared on his face. Aura? That's nothing but a flash in the pan, unable to withstand a single blow. Yanaro continued walking forwards, and with every step he took, a powerful sword chi could be felt tearing apart the air, shooting towards Qin Wentian. The accumulated snow on the ground, as well as the snowflakes around him, were all shredded into pieces. Is that so? Qin Wentian released his first astral soul, the Heavenly Hammer astral soul. At the same time, an astral heavenly hammer appeared in his hands, as he calmly stood there, akin to a towering mountain. No matter how violent the sword chi was, he wouldn't budge. At the same time, the aura of the 6th level of arterial circulation gushed forth from Qin Wentian. His eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky, piercing towards Yanaro, causing Yanaro's eyes to tremble. Within Qin Wentian's eyes, Yanaro could see an intense sense of self-confidence, determination, and even arrogance. Such a gaze would cause people to involuntarily feel how insignificant they were. Boom! Qin Wentian took a step forwards, causing Yanaro's heart to tremble involuntarily. I don't believe it. Even if he's at the 6th level of arterial circulation, how can he shake me? Yanaro silently stated in his heart, as he continued stepping forwards. The sword chi howled in rage, as though it was about to solidify. The shattering snowflakes caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. There's no suspense at all in this battle. Qin Wentian will die for sure. The spectators silently speculated in their hearts as they felt Yanaro's aura. They had no way to sense how much pressure Qin Wentian exerted on Yanaro with a casual step. They had no way to understand why Qin Wentian's steps were so resolute and confident. It was as though Qin Wentian knew that he wouldn't be defeated. Finally, when the distance between the two of them was only a single step, Yanaro jabbed out with his finger, causing numerous short swords to materialize in the air, before explosively shooting out. Hence, everything would be destroyed by this finger. Qin Wentian would die for sure. Boom! The heavenly hammer in Qin Wentian's hands smashed out without any fancy moves. When Yanaro saw this, he suddenly felt as though he was in an illusion. It was as though an entire mountain range was pressing down on him, gathering a boundless amount of energy as it blasted towards him, wanting to completely bury him alive. No. Yanaro's aura dissipated. At this moment, Qin Wentian gave him the impression that he was a peerless expert, and that Qin Wentian wanted to crush him to death. Rumble. The heavenly hammer smashed into the short swords, causing them to shatter at the same time. Yanaro retreated a few steps, while Qin Wentian took another step forward as he blasted out with his palm. What's going on? The expressions of the crowd froze when they saw this scene. Yanaro was actually at a disadvantage. Not only that, Qin Wentian's attack was filled with boundless might. Although Qin Wentian's attack wasn't strong, it was as though it was an innate technique capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Yanaro lifted his palms to attack, yet his aura had completely dissipated. Cracking sounds rang out as his palms trembled violently. Qin Wentian had grabbed hold of his arm, causing Yanaro's countenance to change. Earlier, this was the arm that pointed at my father. Now, I want it to be broken. Qin Wentian roared. With a flick of his palms, Yanaro screamed in agony as one of his arms was broken by Qin Wentian. How is this possible? The expressions of the crowd stiffened. The powerful Yanaro actually had his arm broken by Qin Wentian in a single strike? This caused the crowd to be unable to react. Even those escorting Qin Chuan didn't expect this to happen. You dare! Several enraged roars echoed out at the same time, as the warhorses galloped towards Qin Wentian. At the same time, a silhouette soared through the air, soaring through the air. Evidently, there was a Yuanfu realm cultivator among the escorting troops. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky, only to see the silhouette of the Yuanfu realm cultivator blasting out an ancient imprint towards him, transforming into a life-reaping halo. However, at the same time, the silhouette of a gigantic arm appeared in the air, slamming towards the life-reaping halo. An explosive sound echoed out as the arm and halo exploded at the same time. After which, a silhouette soared through the air, blocking the path of the Yuanfu realm cultivator. Celestial Arm Fist, who are you? The Yuanfu realm cultivator glared at the silhouette, his eyes gleaming with sharpness. That silhouette calmly replied, Qin Wentian, you are not allowed to move. Today, he dared to break out of the prison. He shall be executed. The eyes of that silhouette gleamed with a golden light, incomparably sharp. At the same time, the warhorses on the ground transformed into a hurricane, dashing towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette abruptly moved. Stomping on the ground, his silhouette transformed into a shadow as he dashed forward. At the same time, a silver-colored long spear appeared in his hands. Die! Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he howled in rage. The long spear in his hands shot out like a bolt of silver lightning. Chi, chi, chi. The silver spear slashed through the throats of the silhouettes, so fast that the warhorses didn't even have the time to dodge. In the air, fresh blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the white snow red. In the blink of an eye, the entire group of warhorses had lost their lives. However, there were still more warhorses rushing over. A second divine weapon appeared in Qin Wentian's hands, it was a heavenly halberd. Seeing the long spear in front of him, Qin Wentian took a step forward as the heavenly halberd shot out explosively. His opponent's long spear was directly knocked out of his hands, and the ancient halberd contained a terrifying amount of energy as it pierced straight into his opponent's heart. The warhorses neighed, and the warhorses behind them instantly halted. Qin Wentian lifted his ancient halberd horizontally, as a corpse was pinned at the tip of the ancient halberd, exuding a tyrannical aura. Who dares to come again? Qin Wentian roared in rage. The crowd was as silent as cicadas in winter, their gazes fixated on Qin Wentian. In the air, the two Yuanfu cultivators engaged in a fierce battle, yet the ground was completely silent. Only the blood of the corpse on the tip of the ancient halberd continued to drip onto the snowy ground. How powerful! The spectators didn't expect this young man to be so domineering and powerful. That skinny frame of his was akin to an ancient pine tree as he stood there. Yanaro, who was beneath his feet, was almost forgotten by the crowd. Interspatial divine inscription ring. The crowd glanced at the silver spear, and then glanced at the ancient halberd. These two divine weapons materialized out of thin air. Obviously, Qin Wentian had a divine inscription ring with a spatial dimension. It was impossible for ordinary cultivators to possess such a treasure. At this moment, an old man walked out from the side of Qin Chuan's prison. Stepping on the snowy ground, he walked towards Qin Wentian. "Wentian, be careful. This old man is a Yuanfu cultivator." Qin Chuan roared. The old man was the one guarding him, and he naturally knew that the old man's cultivation base was at the Yuanfu realm. A sinister light flashed in the eyes of the old man as he walked towards Qin Wentian. But at this moment, a silhouette silently appeared behind Qin Wentian. The instant the silhouette appeared, the old man abruptly halted his steps. He glanced at the silhouette, and then glanced at the Yuanfu cultivators battling in the air. Who dared to support Qin Wentian? Chapter 90. Snowflakes continued to dance in the air. The gazes of the crowd landed on the young man, only to see him calmly standing there with an ancient halberd in his hands, looking straight ahead. Today, even if he couldn't save Qin Chuan, he had to use his actions to show his attitude. He, Qin Wentian, would not allow Qin Chuan to be humiliated. Naturally, the young man today had already gained some confidence. He had a cultivation base at the 6th level of arterial circulation, and could easily trample over Yanaro. Not only that, he had precious interspatial rings on him, as well as numerous divine weapons. Most importantly, there was a Yuanfu realm expert behind him. That venomous old man stared coldly at the silhouette behind Qin Wentian. "Sir, you don't look familiar. Old people are already old, it's best not to interfere in the matters of the younger generation." The silhouette behind Qin Wentian calmly replied, causing the countenance of the old man to turn cold. The words spoken by the silhouette weren't polite at all. At this moment, Yanaro stood up, with one of his hands dangling by his side. He coldly stared at Qin Wentian, before turning around, intending to leave. "Did I allow you to leave?" Qin Wentian spoke. Yanaro froze in his tracks, as he turned around. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, but when he saw the look in Qin Wentian's eyes, his heart involuntarily trembled. Qin Wentian didn't even bother to glance at him. That was a deep sense of disdain and contempt. In Qin Wentian's eyes, there was no longer a Yanaro in them. He could still remember the day when he injured Qin Wentian with a single finger. At that time, he stood in front of Qin Wentian with an air of arrogance. If it wasn't for the fact that he coincidentally bumped into rain, he would have already ruthlessly abused Qin Wentian. But now, Qin Wentian was even more arrogant than before, facing him. Within the prison carriage, Qin Chuan's eyes flickered with a strange light. Looking at Qin Wentian, a gratified expression could be seen in his eyes. Qin Wentian's growth, he was extremely happy. "Bai Qingsong, do you regret your actions in the past?" Qin Chuan asked in a low voice, his words causing Bai Qingsong's heart to tremble. Regret? He had once believed that his woman, Autumn Snow, would be a phoenix amongst men. However, upon arriving at the royal capital, he discovered that Autumn Snow's talent wasn't as outstanding as he had expected. Especially when surrounded by so many other geniuses, her talent wasn't as dazzling. However, the youth standing proudly on the snowy ground, holding the ancient halberd in his hand, had already dared to look directly at the imperial army with his resolute gaze. At this moment, in front of the martial platform, the group of soldiers made way, and a few silhouettes slowly walked over from the distance. The person in the lead was extremely young, and the person in the middle was none other than the third prince of Chu, Chu Tianjiao. As for the two people on his left and right, they also had extraordinary bearings. As for the person on the left, he exuded a sense of pride and arrogance. He was none other than the demon-level genius of the Emperor's Star Academy, Luo Qianqiu. As for the person on the right of Chu Tianjiao, he was clad in a long green robe and had an extremely handsome appearance. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were clear and sharp. Yi Clan, Yi Wuke. Some of the spectators recognized these people. These three were all extraordinary characters in the Chu country. Chu Tianjiao, ranked second among the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. Yi Wuke, ranked 5th a year ago. Currently, no one knew how strong he was, and no one knew if he had broken through to Yuanfu. If he did, his ranking would definitely rise. The third person, Luo Qianqiu, was the youngest among the three, but his potential was the greatest. Within a year, he would definitely be ranked within the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. The appearance of any one of these three people would definitely attract the attention of the crowd. And when the three of them stood together, it was as though the entire world was enveloping them. Are you guys sure you want to do this? A light smile hung on Chu Tianjiao's face. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart, but this sentence was naturally directed at the Yuanfu cultivator behind Qin Wentian. Your Highness, Qin Wentian cannot be touched. The person behind Qin Wentian calmly stated. Today, he dared to break out of the prison, and that's already a crime punishable by death. What if I insist on making a move against him? Chu Tianjiao's calm voice contained an unquestionable dominance within. Back then in the dark forest, he didn't manage to achieve his objective. Not only that, both Qin Wentian and Qin Yao were still alive. And now, Qin Wentian had appeared here in such a domineering manner. If such a person was destined to be an enemy, then it would be best to eliminate him as soon as possible. If your Highness insists on making a move against him, then I will also advise your Highness. There are some things in the Chu country that cannot be broken. From afar, a voice drifted over. A man wearing a conical bamboo hat stood in the middle of the snowstorm, his head lowered. Even his face couldn't be seen clearly. Chu Tianjiao's calm gaze abruptly turned sharp, piercing towards the silhouette standing in the middle of the snowstorm. He stood there, as though he was the only person in the entire world. However, it was as though he was the representative of some sort of will. For example, Chu Tianjiao stared at the silhouette, his voice as calm as ever. Regardless of the situation, he would always be able to maintain absolute calmness. Such a person was the most terrifying. For example, the will of the Emperor's Star Academy. The silhouette in the middle of the snowstorm slowly inclined his head. As the sound of his voice faded, a raging gale gusted up from the ground, as boundless wind and rain blasted towards the direction of the crowd. The entire space was filled with a desolate killing intent. The meaning behind this voice was extremely shocking. For example, the will of the Emperor's Star Academy. The Emperor's Star Academy stood in front of the crowd, facing the third prince of the royal clan, and expressed their stance on the matter of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian couldn't be touched. This was the will of the Emperor's Star Academy. Chu Tianjiao's eyes gleamed with a resplendent sharpness as he stared straight at the silhouette. Their gazes intersected in the air, causing the crowd to feel an intense pressure. If there's anyone who dares to break the will of the Emperor's Star Academy, the Emperor's Star Academy will definitely make that person pay a price he won't be able to bear. The silhouette in the middle of the snowstorm spoke once again. The sharpness of his words seemed to contain a will within them, making it impossible for anyone to resist. From now onwards, Qin Wentian's life and death would be determined by the will of the Emperor's Star Academy. No one was allowed to break this. Chu Tianjiao remained silent. This time around, he didn't expect that the Emperor's Star Academy would stand out so strongly, and stand behind Qin Wentian. Beside Qin Wentian, Luo Qianqiu's eyes flashed with a flash of lightning. The will of the Emperor's Star Academy? The Emperor's Star Academy wanted to support Qin Wentian? In that case, they would be his opponent. For the first time, Luo Qianqiu seriously cast a glance at Qin Wentian. However, it was merely a glance. No one could obstruct his path. Not even the Emperor's Star Academy. Within the cell, the gratification in Qin Chuan's eyes grew even more intense as hot tears flowed down his cheeks. He knew that the words spoken by the silhouette in the middle of the snowstorm had already determined that today, no one would be able to touch Qin Wentian. From this moment onwards, Qin Wentian had truly been acknowledged by the Emperor's Star Academy, and had become a member of the Emperor's Star Academy. Qin Wentian's future would definitely be glorious. At this moment, a calm smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He knew that from now onwards, the Emperor's Star Academy had truly acknowledged him. This sort of recognition wasn't easy to obtain. Even when he released his dual astral souls from the third and fourth heavenly layers, the Emperor's Star Academy had only begun to attach importance to him. It wasn't the same as today. Even when facing the Crown Prince of Chu, the Emperor's Star Academy still declared that anyone who dared to break the will of the Emperor's Star Academy would have to pay an unbearable price. This was telling Chu Tianjiao that if he dared to break the will of the Emperor's Star Academy, the Emperor's Star Academy would make him pay a heavy price. Does the Emperor's Star Academy mean that he can trample on the dignity of Chu as he pleases? Chu Tianjiao stared ahead, and after a long moment of silence, he finally spoke. Your Highness, since you've already captured Qin Chuan, why must you humiliate him like this? I'm sure that the third prince will not forget Qin Wu's meritorious deeds in the past. To treat a descendant in such a manner, wouldn't the hearts of the officials of Chu be bitterly disappointed? The silhouette behind Qin Wentian continued, not only that, the reason why Qin Wentian came here today was because he couldn't bear to see his father suffer. He didn't come here to rescue Qin Wentian. How could he trample on the dignity of Chu? Just like what you said, how should we resolve the matter today? Chu Tianjiao stared at the silhouette as he asked. Your Highness, how do you intend to resolve it? The silhouette asked Chu Tianjiao. Chu Tianjiao's eyes flickered, as a cold light flickered within. However, at this moment, Luo Qianqiu, who was standing beside him, interjected, as a fellow student of the Emperor's Star Academy, I wish to see how extraordinary the person protected by the Emperor's Star Academy is. If he can receive 3 moves from me, I will spare his life today. Luo Qianqiu calmly stated, causing the gazes of the crowd to land onto Luo Qianqiu. Luo Qianqiu wasn't Yanaro. If he acted, Qin Wentian would be in grave danger. Sure. Chu Tianjiao nodded. Firstly, you don't have the qualifications to say that you will spare my life. Secondly, if I receive 3 moves from you, I need a promise from your Highness, the third prince. From now on, you must treat my father Qin Chuan kindly, and not use any methods to humiliate him. Qin Wentian stated. This was his attitude. Even if it was difficult, even if he didn't expect the Emperor's Star Academy to step in, he still came. He wanted a promise. He wanted to ensure that before he had the strength to rescue his father, Qin Chuan would never be humiliated again. He knew that based on his current status, even if the Emperor's Star Academy and the Divine Weapon Pavilion were willing to support him, they wouldn't be willing to make an enemy out of the royal clan of Chu just because of him. The implications of this matter were too great. I promise you. Luo Qianqiu stepped out, as a terrifying pressure gushed forth, akin to the crackling of lightning. On behalf of Chu Tianjiao, he directly agreed to Qin Wentian's request. The snow on the ground was crushed into dust, as Luo Qianqiu's aura erupted forth. 8th level of arterial circulation. As the sound of his voice faded, he prepared to act. From his point of view, Qin Wentian still didn't have the qualifications to stand in front of him. Qin Wentian, the will of the Emperor's Star Academy. He really wanted to see who the Emperor's Star Academy wanted to support, and who would be able to obstruct his path. Chapter 91. Arrogant, tyrannical, this was the current Luo Qianqiu. He directly agreed to Qin Wentian's request, and even made the decision on behalf of Chu Tianjiao. Because he had the qualifications to do so, Chu Tianjiao wouldn't have any objections. Naturally, Chu Tianjiao also believed in Luo Qianqiu. As he watched Luo Qianqiu walk out, he was filled with confidence. The soldiers surrounding Qin Wentian all retreated, and very soon, only Luo Qianqiu and Qin Wentian remained on the snowy path. Kacha! A bolt of lightning flashed, and Luo Qianqiu's body was bathed in the glow of the lightning. His astral energy contained the power of lightning, and his constellation was a lightning-type constellation. With Luo Qianqiu at the center, the surrounding snow was all shattered into pieces. That aura caused many in the crowd to sigh in admiration at how tyrannical Luo Qianqiu was. As expected of a heavens chosen from the Emperor's Star Academy. With a cultivation base at the 8th level of arterial circulation, Luo Qianqiu is already qualified to be one of the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. 3 moves, to Qin Wentian, would definitely be a nightmare. The hearts of the spectators mused, only to see Qin Wentian keeping the ancient halberd in his hands. Since they had agreed on 3 moves, there was no need for him to borrow the power of a divine weapon. Streaks of lightning illuminated the entire space, and with every step Luo Qianqiu took, the spectators felt that he could destroy Qin Wentian at any moment. That kind of aura was too tyrannical. Finally, Luo Qianqiu's 5 fingers struck out, and his silhouette appeared in front of Qin Wentian. In that instant, the spectators only saw an innumerable number of lightning pythons lunging towards Qin Wentian, wanting to devour him. That kind of tyrannical aura seemed to be able to destroy everything. At the same time, Qin Wentian also responded. Using his divine energy, he blasted out with his arterial circulation imprint, his palm imprint drowning out everything. The spectators only saw the mountain toppling, sea overturning palm imprint being entangled by the lightning, before exploding apart bit by bit. Qin Wentian only felt his entire body going numb as a huge force slammed into him. His feet slid across the snowy ground as he retreated over 10 meters. However, Qin Wentian's body remained ramrod straight as he stared straight at Luo Qianqiu. The first move. Luo Qianqiu retracted his 5 fingers as he took another step forward. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his robe was as white as snow. He was Luo Qianqiu. The Qin Wentian in front of him was merely a stumbling block in his path. He would use his most domineering attitude to kick him away. Qin Wentian wasn't qualified to obstruct his path. It was impossible for the Emperor's Star Academy to support a demon-level character to obstruct his plans. There were less than 2 months left. The end of this year would be the time when his radiance would shine. At that time, he would fulfill the promise he had made and step into the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. This was something his father had accomplished before. Naturally, Qin Wentian's goal wasn't limited to this. Luo Qianqiu's eyes were filled with arrogance and disdain. In his eyes, there was no Qin Wentian. Since he couldn't even withstand the first move, Qin Wentian's ending was already set in stone. When Luo Qianqiu once again descended in front of Qin Wentian, snowflakes danced violently in the air. Luo Qianqiu's eyes contained the might of lightning, piercing right into Qin Wentian's eyes. His palms blasted out once again, and this time around, his entire being was akin to a god of lightning. Everything in his path would be destroyed. The arterial pathways in Qin Wentian's body were already roaring. His eyes no longer feared Luo Qianqiu's gaze, and a surge of energy frenziedly gathered in his palms. Forgotten imprint. Qin Wentian's palms blasted out, executing the 3rd stance of the 1,000 Hands imprint, the Forgotten imprint. This palm imprint seemed as though it wanted to draw out all the astral energy in his arterial pathways. This palm imprint wanted to break apart all illusions and shatter everything in its path. As the attacks of the two collided, a terrifying shockwave swept outwards. With the two of them at the center, the accumulated snow in a circumference was swept up into the air, transforming into a hurricane that danced chaotically in the wind. This time around, Qin Wentian's footsteps were as firm as a mountain. Scram! Luo Qianqiu roared in rage. Scram! Qin Wentian similarly roared, and both of them were simultaneously forced backwards. However, Luo Qianqiu only retreated a single step, while Qin Wentian retreated over 10 steps. The disparity between their cultivation bases was clear for all to see. Qin Wentian only felt his insides trembling, as though a terrifying lightning energy was rushing into his body, wanting to destroy it. However, the moment he raised his eyes, there was an unshakable determination and stubbornness in his clear gaze. At the same time, there was an indomitable determination to move forward. The spectators felt their hearts surging with emotions. Who would have thought that Qin Wentian would actually be able to withstand Luo Qianqiu's second strike? That terrifying attack earlier, even those at the 8th level of arterial circulation would have been easily annihilated. Yet, Qin Wentian had actually managed to withstand it. There was no longer any snow beneath the feet of the two of them. A cold wind gusted by, fluttering Luo Qianqiu's white robes. He had actually retreated a single step. To him, this was a humiliation. Even if it was only a single step. Even if Qin Wentian's innate technique was extraordinary, and might even be an Earth-grade innate technique. But so what? He was Luo Qianqiu, and his innate techniques were all tyrannical as well. His astral souls contained explosive power. There was no reason for him to retreat. Are you ready for the third strike? Luo Qianqiu inclined his head, staring at Qin Wentian. His voice was filled with arrogance, as though announcing the end of the battle. His second astral soul had already been released, and the lightning astral energy within his body was howling. This strike would completely destroy Qin Wentian. Boom! However, at this moment, Qin Wentian abruptly stepped out, releasing both of his astral souls. The 6 arterial pathways in his body began to seethe with power. Huh! The countenances of the spectators froze. After which, they saw Qin Wentian's silhouette dashing out like a hurricane, as fast as lightning. His body leapt up into the air, akin to a great rock spreading its wings. How is this possible? The eyes of the spectators narrowed. Only Yuanfu realm cultivators could soar through the air, yet Qin Wentian could actually stride through the air. Even Luo Qianqiu was stunned. However, he didn't even have the time to be stunned. At this moment, Qin Wentian descended from the skies. His eyes were resplendent, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. From those eyes, Luo Qianqiu could see a will that could destroy the heavens and earth with a single palm strike. This will directly entered his mind, transforming into images that were branded onto him. How fast! The countenances of the spectators froze. This time around, Qin Wentian didn't passively defend. He actually took the initiative to launch an attack. The figure descending from the skies unleashed his strongest attack as he blasted out a palm strike. This palm strike was still the same emptiness imprint. However, this palm strike was as heavy as a mountain, akin to a mountain peak pressing down on Luo Qianqiu. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu only felt the pressure of a mountain pressing down on him, causing his countenance to stiffen. He was a prideful person. He had always believed that Qin Wentian would stand there and receive his strongest attack. His strongest attack would directly destroy Qin Wentian. However, he had clearly overestimated himself, and also underestimated Qin Wentian. In that instant, Luo Qianqiu didn't even have the time to think. He could only lift his palms and blast out with them. Boundless amounts of lightning and thunder energy erupted forth, destroying everything in this space. Yet, it was unable to destroy Qin Wentian's determination. Pang! The terrifying might of the collision caused Luo Qianqiu's body to bend under the pressure, as though he was on the verge of collapse. Groaning in agony, Luo Qianqiu's body trembled violently from the pressure. 3 moves. Qin Wentian was incomparably arrogant as he stared at Luo Qianqiu. Scram! Luo Qianqiu howled in rage. Boundless energy converged into the form of the Thunder God's sword, slashing down towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's countenance froze. His left palm slammed downwards, causing rumbling sounds to echo out, akin to the pressure of a mountain. The crowd could even see the shadow of a mountain, yet the mountain was actually split apart. Qin Wentian's body was flung through the air, landing a distance away. Groaning in agony, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. This is the fourth move. Qin Wentian inclined his head, staring at Luo Qianqiu. The gazes of the crowd were all on him. 3 moves, yet Luo Qianqiu wasn't able to force him back. In fact, they were evenly matched. Staring at the astral souls floating above Qin Wentian's head, the crowd couldn't help but feel a sense of surrealism. His combat prowess was already so tyrannical, yet he was still injured in the end. Yet, it seemed as though it wasn't able to block out his radiance. He was Qin Wentian. In this battle, he had made a name for himself. Astral souls from the 3rd and 4th heavenly layer, tyrannical combat prowess, and an indomitable character. In addition to the fact that the Emperor's Star Academy stood behind him, it was as though they could see a resplendent star slowly rising up into the skies, radiating a radiance that belonged solely to him. You are very intelligent. Luo Qianqiu was silent for a moment, as he stared at Qin Wentian, his eyes filled with arrogance. You hid your strongest attack, and only used it at the last moment. Taking advantage of my unprepared state, I managed to avert your nightmare. Luo Qianqiu slowly continued, I have to say, you already have the qualifications for me to take a serious look at you. However, the next time you face me, I will definitely not give you such an opportunity. Even at this moment, Luo Qianqiu's tone was still as arrogant as ever. The gazes of the crowd once again converged onto him. That's right, he was Luo Qianqiu, the demon-level genius Luo Qianqiu. So what if Qin Wentian had an extraordinary combat prowess? Luo Qianqiu's radiance couldn't be overshadowed. If this was a real battle, the ending would definitely be Qin Wentian's miserable defeat. Qin Wentian could feel the arrogance radiating from Luo Qianqiu, but his eyes were still as calm as ever. The first time I met you in the Emperor's Star Academy, you were already so arrogant. The blood ember fruits I snatched from the dark forest, yet you claimed that they belonged to you? Because, at that time, you could easily suppress me. The second time we met, in the dark forest, you were still as domineering as ever. You wanted my life, and the you back then was able to do so. Today, we meet again. 3 moves, yet you were unable to defeat me. In fact, you even went against our agreement and used a 4th move, yet you are still as arrogant as ever. Since that's the case, the next time we fight, I will show you how laughable and pathetic your arrogance is. Qin Wentian slowly spoke, his eyes filled with determination. He, too, had his own pride. This was the 3rd time he had clashed with Luo Qianqiu. Next time, he would cleanse the slate clean, and Luo Qianqiu would pay the price for his arrogance. This was his will, Qin Wentian's will. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian. A hot-blooded youth with a heart of a ferocious tiger. Today, Qin Wentian was already worthy of pride. Chapter 92. Luo Qianqiu stared at Qin Wentian, but there were no fluctuations in his countenance. The environment he grew up in was different from the people of Chu. Ever since he was young, he had seen too many geniuses and heard too many lofty words. Naturally, he had also seen many demon-level geniuses die prematurely. He was very clear that no words could compare to actions. No matter how lofty the words were, they would eventually turn into dust in the wind. This was a world where the victor was the king and the loser was the villain. Luo Qianqiu's martial heart was incomparably resolute. He wouldn't waver just because of a few words spoken by Qin Wentian. In his eyes, Qin Wentian was just a passerby. After he completed his mission in the Emperor's Star Academy, he would leave Chu and pursue a broader stage, contending against even more demon-level geniuses. Chu was too small, there was no place for him. At the end of this year, there will be a grand banquet. I'll be waiting for you. Luo Qianqiu stared at Qin Wentian, causing the countenances of the crowd to freeze. They naturally knew what the grand banquet Luo Qianqiu was referring to was. The Chu country was no exception. Every year, before the end of the year, there would be a grand banquet to celebrate the martial Dao. As long as the people of Chu were below 30, or below Yuanfu, they would all be able to participate. This kind of atmosphere was extremely intense, and because it was only held once a year, the majority of people would have a chance to participate. As for Yuanfu realm cultivators like Wu Xiu, they wouldn't be participating because their goal wasn't here. Luo Qianqiu returned to Chu Tianjiao's side. Qin Wentian didn't pay too much attention to Luo Qianqiu's words. 3 moves have passed, I hope that your highness can give me a promise. Qin Wentian calmly stated. Yanaro, come back. Chu Tianjiao spoke to Yanaro. Yanaro nodded his head and stepped onto the snowy path, returning to Chu Tianjiao's side. However, he still had his head lowered, feeling that he had lost all face. Qin Wentian. Chu Tianjiao smiled as he looked at Qin Wentian. If I didn't guess wrongly, the young genius in the Divine Weapon Pavilion who can inscribe 3rd-level divine inscriptions should be you, right? Chu Tianjiao smiled as he glanced at the 2 Yuanfu experts beside Qin Wentian, as he calmly stated, as though he knew everything. Young genius of the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Qin Wentian. The hearts of the crowd trembled again. Their eyes were fixed on Qin Wentian. Yes, it's me. Qin Wentian lightly nodded, he didn't conceal anything. He knew he wouldn't be able to hide anything from Chu Tianjiao. Regarding the matters of the Qin clan, I can completely disregard you. As for the Yi clan and O clan, I can also plead on your behalf. As long as you no longer interfere with the matters of the Qin clan, I'm willing to aid you in your cultivation. Chu Tianjiao abruptly stated. No one would have thought that he would suddenly say such words. The crowd couldn't help but to sigh in admiration as they stared at that handsome countenance. The 3rd prince of Chu, Chu Tianjiao, was truly a dragon among men. As long as Qin Wentian nodded his head, he would be able to cast aside everything else and even lend Qin Wentian a hand. This was giving Qin Wentian a chance. As long as he agreed, Chu Tianjiao could disregard all grudges and even mediate between the Yi clan and O clan. From then on, he and Chu Tianjiao could become friends. And the only condition for this was that he wouldn't interfere with the matters of the Qin clan. Because the only conflict between Chu Tianjiao and Qin Wentian was the matter of the Qin clan. Disregarding the matter of the Qin clan, they could become friends. Someone recognized by the Emperor's Star Academy, someone protected by the Divine Weapon Pavilion, a young genius who could inscribe 3rd-level divine inscriptions. Currently, Qin Wentian seemed to have many halos surrounding him. As long as he was willing, he would be able to soar to the skies in the Chu country. No one would be able to obstruct his path. However, if he agreed, he wouldn't be Qin Wentian. Your Highness, thank you for your kind intentions. Qin Wentian calmly replied, and didn't continue speaking. Evidently, he had rejected. But of course, this was within the expectations of the crowd. Since he was standing in the middle of the snowstorm today, obstructing the troops escorting Qin Chuan, the crowd already knew what sort of character he was. Since I, Chu Tianjiao, have already made a promise, I will definitely accomplish it. Qianqiu's promise is my promise as well. Chu Tianjiao didn't say anything more. He had given Qin Wentian a chance. As for whether or not Qin Wentian wanted it, it was up to Qin Wentian, not him. Regardless of the time, his words were still as appropriate as ever. Even if Luo Qianqiu made the decision for him, he wasn't the least bit angry. On the contrary, he said that Luo Qianqiu's promise was his promise as well. The people of the royal capital of Chu seemed to have a clearer understanding of the rumored 3rd prince. Chu Tianjiao, the heavens chosen of the Chu country. It was impossible for such a person to not ascend to the throne. The current emperor had grand ambitions, and only had children at a very late age. Hence, even the oldest prince was only 28 years of age. However, among all the princes, he favored the third prince, Chu Tianjiao. Bring Qin Chuan back, don't let him suffer any more grievances. Chu Tianjiao calmly commanded. Momentarily, the troops turned and escorted Qin Chuan out of the prison. Qin Chuan's gaze pierced through space, landing on Qin Wentian. Your father will always believe that you will prove yourself, and prove to the entire Chu country that you are capable. Qin Chuan's eyes reddened, as he silently stated in his heart, the Chu country will not be able to obstruct your footsteps. Your world should be even more vast. Child, this is only a hurdle in your path. Don't hold yourself back too much because of me. Your future is still very long. As he thought in his heart, beneath his messy hair, a pair of eyes that shone like the stars in the night sky stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian also stared at him. It was as though he could read the look in Qin Chuan's eyes. He silently stated in his heart, Father, your son will not disappoint you. After the troops escorting Qin Chuan left, Bai Qingsong cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian. He then turned to Autumn Snow, who was still staring at him, and said, Autumn Snow, let's go. Autumn Snow froze for a moment, before nodding her head. Staring at the youth in the distance, her heart was in a state of chaos. It wasn't because of regret, but because from the start till the end, Qin Wentian had never looked at her seriously, not even once. She still remembered the warning she had given to Qin Wentian in the past, that they were people from two different worlds. Qin Wentian had also replied to her, that they were indeed people from two different worlds. Now, reality had proven who was in the right and who was in the wrong. Autumn Snow lifted her head and gazed at the drifting snowflakes in the sky. A trace of confusion could be seen in her eyes. For the first time, she started to doubt herself. The troops escorting the prisoners gradually left, but the spectators in the surroundings had yet to disperse. Looking at the three youths standing side by side, Chu Tianjiao, Luo Qianqiu, and Yi Wuk, they were still as outstanding as ever. After this battle, the spectators had a clear understanding of Chu Tianjiao and Luo Qianqiu. Naturally, they also knew Qin Wentian. Amidst the snowstorm, the silhouette of the three youths. Today, no one had won or lost, but their faces had been deeply imprinted into the hearts of the spectators. From today onwards, they would never be able to forget Chu Tianjiao's confidence, Luo Qianqiu's arrogance, and Yi Wuk's profoundness. Similarly, they would never be able to forget the tenacity, determination, and extraordinary talent of that youth. Today, Qin Wentian was the same as Chu Tianjiao and Luo Qianqiu. This was the first time he entered the royal capital of the Chu country, and the first time he was recognized by the crowd. His name was Qin Wentian, a young genius who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. Behind him stood the Divine Weapon Pavilion, as well as the will of the Emperor Star Academy. Qin Clan, Qin Wentian. Chu Tianjiao and the rest also departed, treading on the snowstorm, leaving behind a trail of footprints on the snowy ground. Behind them, there was still one more person, Yanaro. If there was a loser today, it would definitely be Yanaro. Qin Wentian's gaze was still fixed on the horizon, only to see the person beside him patting him on his shoulders. Don't worry, since Chu Tianjiao has already promised in front of everyone, he won't make things difficult for your father. Lightly nodding his head, Qin Wentian glanced at the people beside him and smiled, many thanks to seniors for your help today. You are now the treasure of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. In the future, I might still need your help. That Yuanfu cultivator laughed. The two of them were naturally from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Naturally, they dared to stand behind Qin Wentian. In the world of cultivation, those with strength would never have to worry about not being able to survive. They were all at the Yuanfu realm, and today, they only wanted to ensure Qin Wentian's safety. Chu Tianjiao wouldn't be so foolish as to send experts to deal with them and the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The status of the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the Chu country was extremely special. The Emperor wouldn't dare to touch them easily. If the Divine Weapon Pavilion was angered, they might bring all the resources they had to the Chu country to fight against the Chu country. This was also the reason why Chu Tianjiao wanted to rope in Qin Wentian. A young genius who could inscribe third-level divine inscriptions. In the future, there would be many experts who would need his help. A high-level divine inscriptionist could easily rope in many people. Since the people from the Emperor's Star Academy have arrived, we will take our leave first. That person nodded his head to Qin Wentian before departing as well. Qin Wentian turned and stared at the silhouette behind him. That silhouette wearing a conical bamboo hat slowly walked away, as though he was just a passerby. Senior Ren, many thanks. A grateful smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. A good man should be able to distinguish between gratitude and grudges. He would always remember those who had helped him. Today, during the most difficult period of his life, the Divine Weapon Pavilion and the Emperor's Star Academy stood behind him, helping him to withstand the pressure from the Emperor. He would forever remember this kindness. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.